Good evening, all. It is time for some midweek geek. I have some initial panelists. We've just been chatting with Mage, but he can't stay because he has a relationship to develop. And it looks like Halakar just disappeared as well. Oh it's just me and you, IQ, isn't it? Just me and you.
Am I looking the right way? No, that way. Hey, John, how's it going?
I'm hoping Halakar will come back. But I think we've got an Elfbait joining us in a bit. Oh, Halakar has returned. Elfbait's got to join us around work. You clicked on something there, Halakar, was it?
Yeah, I did. I was trying to get the chat set up, and apparently that was the wrong button.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, I've had boomer moments as well, so don't you worry. I've done that sort of thing before.
If you guys have boomer moments, what do you call it when I have them? Because the amount of times I've clicked on chat and pressed back instead of close, and it's closed the stream.
Well, look, we know that you are a boomer in a younger man's body. We know.
I guess, yeah.
Yes.
I was born 20 years too late.
Yes. I don't know if the bot's working yet. It often takes a few minutes for the bot to. I haven't stopped the Nightbot, but it sometimes takes a bit of time for the Nightbot to kick in. So,
I was going to ask you actually, how do you set up a bot for live streaming? Because I was thinking I might try and do that.
I downloaded Nightbot. And I told it how to access my channel, basically.
So it's external to YouTube, then?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
It's come alive. It has come alive. It is external to YouTube.
Right. Okay.
If you use OBS, there's various plugins you can get as well. I haven't messed around with that too much. Anyway, hello, Iman. Hello, Halakar. How are you both doing on this lovely? It's meant to be the day of love, isn't it? Today, Valentine's Day.
I said Happy Singles Awareness Day to people in the Discord.
Yes. And speaking of love, a man who can teach us a thing or two about wooing the women. We have Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
How did I know?
I can teach you how not to woo them.
Yeah. Right, and in chat I can see General Nut. There's Mr. Baker. Mage is on. Hello, Andy. There's you, Daniel. That's everyone who's spoken so far.
It sounds like I've got audio going in another room. Let me go turn that off so we don't have any feedback here. I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries.
Sure.
So let's talk about games we've had recently. Hello, Dave. Iman,
what was the topic? RPG relationships.
RPG relationships, yes. But hello, Ali Puck. We'll start we'll start talking about our gaming though initially. So, Iman, any games apart from the one you played with me yesterday?
No, I was thinking you were going to ask me about yesterday.
Oh, come on, tell everybody about yesterday.
This ought to be good.
Quite a few interesting characters we met yesterday. One of whom is called Compt Fenelic, who, if you guys have done the one shot before Horror on the Orient Express, you'll know all about him. Yeah. Certain members of our team were less scared. Some were more scared. I ended up basically just talking sort of insolently to him. He was like trying to scare me, and I'm like, who the fuck are you?
Who's the dwarf sitting in my seat? Hey. Oh, yeah.
Me?
No, it's me. It's me. Hello, Winter Donefly. Who art thou? It's taken me 2 months to grow it. So, and I have started trimming it now. It started
less than 2 months.
I know. It's in your genes, though, isn't it? I remember at school, all the Asian lads by about 14 were getting quite bushy,
pretty
and
thick beard, yeah.
And the rest of us were going.
One of the guys I went to school with, Jack, he was like, if I shave, it'll open up all my pores and then I'll grow a beard quicker. I'm like, yeah, you wish.
Yeah. Anyway, yesterday's game, because we do have Andy in chat who was there yesterday. He was there yesterday.
Yes, Andy was there. Yeah, he can give some further insight. But yeah, the relationships between our own characters and then also the relationships that we have when we meet the NPCs is part of the world building, and it's quite interesting how John plays some of these characters because he does little voices, little accents, little mannerisms, and it really helps sell it.
Cool. Well, we can come to that sort of thing in a bit. But no, it was a good game last night.
It was fantastic. We got a lot done, I think.
Yeah, you've met a very, very interesting adversary who possibly touches onto one of the topics we may have to address tonight. Because, yeah, we'll come to that in a bit. Anyway, Halakar, have you had any games recently?
This Saturday is going to be our next one. Last weekend was the Super Bowl, so everybody was preparing for the game and watching the game.
I watched the first half. I watched the crap half, and I went to bed. Good after that, didn't it? We got better anyway. But no, I went to bed about 2 a.m. and it wasn't the best first halves. If you want sort of explosive,
it was slow.
It was a bit slow. Yeah. Daniel, your games. I believe you played a little bit with us on Saturday, didn't you? Did you?
Yes, that's the only thing I did. I wanted to jump in with yesterday's, but I was busy, so I just lurked.
Well, just let us know. Just let us know when you have time to join.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you created a character for Call of Cthulhu, Dan?
I can't remember. I was actually going to ask John if we did or not. I know we did one. We did one for MERP. I can't remember if we got around to Cthulhu.
I don't think.
We have a space free at the moment, I believe, right?
We do have a space free now. Yes.
The only thing is, for me, every other Tuesday. Well, it's Taco Tuesday at the bar I go to.
Right.
And every other Tuesday, I meet this really hot girl for tacos and drinks.
Right.
Nice.
Okay. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. There's a catch. She used to work
got a
with
dick.
my wife, and my wife goes with me.
That's not a catch.
It sounds good to start off with, and then you're like, okay, yeah, the wife's with me though. But I can do every other week, and then the other ones I just have to jump in later on.
Okay.
So
Yep. Hello, Michael Stronghold has joined us, and here's Curtis as well. Nice to see you, chaps. Yeah, I've played a few games in the last week or so. I couldn't play on Saturday afternoon because I had to work in our busy shop. I was able to lurk and listen.
well, that's good. You were busy though.
Yeah, busy's an understatement.
Yep. Well, that's cool.
An understatement. Yeah, I was by myself in the shop, and I had to deal with in the region of about 80 customers during the day, which is quite a lot for one person in an 8-hour shift. When a lot of them stand and talk and want advice.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
It's not just like that'll be £1, please.
Well,
that sort of stuff. It's
that's like,
can we have some advice on this?
That's like when I worked in the gun stores.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a bullshit for an hour, and you're like, dude, I got stuff to do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But it was busy. I mean, I was able to chime in a few times on chat, just sort of comment on a few bits that I'd heard and try and troll you a little bit. But that was it, really. I wasn't able to listen to all of it, unfortunately. Then we played some MERP on Saturday night, and they took down a lesser white. The group of characters took down a lesser white by using common sense and a little bit of light, which really does help against the undead. Well, that was good. That was good. They were very nervous about it, but approached it quite sensibly, because the session before, they had their backsides handed to them quite severely.
Yeah.
quite severely by that white because they just blundered straight in and just got smashed. So then they realised you are muted. You are muted there, Iman.
Sorry, is that the one you told me about when my character's the only one that survived?
What?
Or
What?
in
You don't
OSC
play
or MEP?
No, you don't play
No,
them.
my NPC character.
Oh no. No, your NPC characters. They all got in trouble in an OSC game with you as an NPC. Nobody died, apart from one of the other NPCs.
What was it that happened then? Remind me.
Oh, they just got utterly overwhelmed by the Krampus elves.
That was it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was
They
a few
didn't
weeks
have
back.
enough.
Played in my friend's game on Monday, but then we had Call of Cthulhu last night. I do look forward to Call of Cthulhu, especially when I get a chance to introduce probably my favourite villain. I'm waiting for people to say that I like playing him too much, but I probably do. Given that the things he's capable of doing are, let's just say it's a bit of an adult game with it when he's involved. It's a bit of an adult game. The things he likes to do to his victims would not fly in a game with teenagers around. You've got to know your audience with him. He's not nice. He's not nice at all. There's a reason why he was locked up deep in an asylum below Paris for a long time.
Presumed dead. Also,
he probably makes the Marquis de Sade look like the Pope.
Nice.
Yeah, nice indeed. Indeed. So we might come to discussing that sort of thing later. Anywho, hello, Straw Piglet. So in-game relationships, with it being Valentine's Day and a day when we should have relationships on our mind. Hello, Hungar. Yes, Saturday. Looking forward to Saturday. We will be streaming a game live on Saturday. I will simul stream it on my channel. I'm guessing others will too. Bear will be running it again, and I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Me too. I've been looking forward to it since the session bloody finished.
Absolutely. So in-game relationships, we're going to start off with relationships in a general sense. Developing, firstly, friendships. Now, I'm of the belief that player characters don't necessarily have to be friends with each other, but they do have to be willing to work together. I like it when there's a little bit of banter, a little bit of friction between player characters from time to time, and I am guilty of stirring it up occasionally, trying to get characters to play against each other sometimes. And certainly for one-shot scenarios, I do quite like having a few rather abrasive, unsavory characters in there to allow players to really sort of explore a bit of personality conflict. So I don't force my player characters to be friends, but they have to be a team. I'm thinking, certainly looking at, you don't run games, Iman, but Halakar, I know you running a game at the moment.
Yes.
Is there anything you've done to sort of encourage friendship and interaction between the characters in your games, or have you just let the players run with it?
Okay, now in my game, all the characters are teenagers. The oldest one is 18. They all grew up in the same village because what got them started as adventurers was the river. There's a river that goes through their village, and the dam burst. So there was a natural disaster, and they all had to spontaneously suddenly help the adults with things, and that set them on their path to being adventurers. So they all knew each other.
Yeah.
Just random. Their families were determined by what their secondary skills were. It just so happened two of them are brother and sister. because they have the same secondary skill. Now, one of them, the one that is the magic user in the party, is he decided chaotic neutral is the alignment he is following, and he has rubbed every NPC we have come across the wrong way. He gets along fantastically with the rest of the group because because of that dynamic. Now we've got one guy that's on his third character because he doesn't play his characters very intelligently. Right. At this point, we're in the Cult of the Reptile God. Well, they took a couple prisoners after the fiasco at the Golden Grain Inn. Well, they're trying to figure out what to do with these prisoners they took, and the fighter thief is like, well, gee, I don't know how we can do anything with them. We've got them all tied up. We've taken all their gear. They have, basically they're sitting there in their underwear tied up. Well, we can't really do anything with them. We should just kill them all. And the chaotic neutral magic user's like, oh, no. We cannot do that. So he had to momentarily step in and fill the role of leaning towards law and leaning towards good to say, you're not doing this the right way.
Now, I'm sort of a DM who would, when a player picks chaotic neutral, I like to sort of make the point to them that I don't believe chaotic neutral can be used as an excuse to do whatever the hell you want and be evil. And be evil without actually having evil written on the page. For me, chaotic neutral is all about freedom. And you have personal beliefs in not just your freedom, but freedom of everybody else. So that both chaotic good and chaotic neutral will be heavily anti-oppression alignments. So I think in terms of tying up and grilling an enemy, I think the magic user would be the most likely, the chaotic neutral character would be the most likely one to eventually set them free.
Well, yeah, he had no problem tying them up, but murdering them just because, well, we can't take him anywhere, we don't know what to do with them. He was the one that said, no, we can't just kill prisoners that we already have, that are defenseless. We can't just kill them in cold blood.
Because by definition, that's not neutral and it's not chaotic either.
Well, and he figured out that they are under the effect of a charm spell.
Right. Okay.
So he's like, they're not doing this of their own free will.
Okay. Just come back to Straw Piglet, but chaotic evil. The way I look at alignments is you look at the good, neutral, evil bit first, and that is your general attitude towards others, and then you look at the lawful, neutral, chaotic to see how you approach this attitude towards others. So lawful evil is systematic nastiness. Neutral evil, selfish nastiness. Chaotic evil is often quite psycho nastiness.
Yeah, that's the way I've thought about it too.
Whereas lawful neutral is pure law, chaotic neutral is pure freedom, but that means freedom for everybody. And whereas lawful good is use structure to be good, neutral good is just do good. Chaotic good is, if anything, undermine structure to do good. Go against norms to do good. Go against expectations.
Yeah.
Well, the
makes sense to me. It's that 3x3 grid, isn't it?
Yeah.
He is our magic user, Trebulus, the boy wonder, mage of destiny. He calls himself. Every session, he adds another title to his name. Whatever he does well, he adds that to his title. So
that's Mr. Dr. Professor Patrick.
I think cartographer got added in there somewhere. His thing is he wants to be rich. So if the party accepts a job, an assignment to go do something, as soon as their losses start to outweigh the potential benefit that they're going to get from this, he's like, you know what, I'm done. You guys can go ahead and do this, but you're going to do it without the magic user. I'm going back to the inn. I'm doing something else. I'm out of here because it is not going to net me profit in the long run.
Draw Piglet. I mean, I could argue. Yeah, you could easily argue that Chaotic Good wants freedom for everyone, but it would be sort of like freedom for the good of everyone. It's Chaotic Neutral would be more like freedom for everyone, really, sort of no matter what. I mean, the Chaotic Good would work more for the general good. They'd be the most likely ones to try and encourage the poor to enjoy life, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't see neutrality as apathy. That's the thing. Lawful neutral is certainly not apathetic. Not an apathetic alignment at all. It's probably the most rigid of the lot. But hey ho. Anyway, but yes. So you've developed relationships within your group by thrusting these inexperienced adventurers into a must-help type situation.
Yes, but this is the first time I've done it. In other groups, it's been, we've the biggest one is the dwarf and the elf in the same party, because that's just that's the trope. These two don't get along, and usually I'm the one that ends up being the dwarf, and it's like, a little pansy elf. You go do your thing. I'll be the one that saves the day and gets the job done. I really don't care. We've heard from the bards of old that fairies wear boots, and you got to believe. So hey, I have to put up with you, but I'm going to be the one that gets the job done. But in the end, as long as the party survives, it's a thing. I have seen other characters that have tried to manipulate each other and been able to keep it in game. I've seen other times where player personality has bled into the game, and character disputes have boiled over into player. I mean, it can be tricky.
It can be, yeah.
It depends on who your people are that are playing.
You need an approach of what goes on at the table stays at the table.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you do. I mean, you do try to. You've got to try to foster generally good relationships among the players as well as the characters. But for me, with the characters, as long as obviously, if a game is set up so that they don't have to work together, it doesn't matter. But if you're playing a party game, such as D&D, or our Call of Cthulhu group, where teamwork is absolutely essential, it's one thing I will try to ensure is happening. Try and ensure the players have a reason to work, for their characters to work with the others. And when I say like when I started the Call of Cthulhu campaign, I said to the players beforehand, you can create whatever sort of characters you want, as long as you have a connection to this one particular NPC. You've got to be friendly or either on good personal terms or had good personal relationships or work with or whatever, or be a supporter of sort of this one particular NPC to get them to start the campaign off on the right foot and want to help him. And because they all have that collective attachment to that one NPC, they have generally worked together so far, which is good. I mean, certainly we have the situation where Iman's sanity is he's starting to fray, which could cause a few things to happen. But we, as players, we know that is a consequence of playing Call of Cthulhu. And we know that should Iman go off the rails with his character a little bit, that's just natural development based on the things that the poor soul has had to endure so far. Iman has frozen. Someone wants to snip that pose, you're more than welcome to do so. He isn't looking quite as odd as in some of the pictures where he's frozen in the past. So.
Straw Piglet asks if diametrically opposed alignments can work together. In this case, as long as there's not a paladin involved. And someone else answers pretty much to the point. It depends if there is an objective that needs to be met that is going to benefit all of them, then obviously they can. I mean, when they imprisoned Thurisdan, that was all the gods together. I mean, even the evil ones said, "Hey, this is too much."
Yes.
So everybody worked together on that. Now they may have gone about it in different ways of getting it done, but you could look at the different pantheons of good. If you were to pick a chaotic good from 5 random pantheons, each one of them would have a different specialty within that particular alignment and how they would do things. So even within the same alignment, they would have a different way of doing that alignment.
Absolutely. And yes, I mean, if the goal is to empty dungeons, it is all good, and as Straw Piglet says, but it's the manner in which they do it. And I would expect, if people are diametrically opposed, that the manner in which some might want to do it compared to others might well cause friction between the characters, which is only natural if they choose opposing viewpoints for their characters. It's up to the players to play that out. But as long as they're working as a team in the dungeon, that's the thing. But whether they'll continue to work as a team in the future, that's the thing to discuss.
There's an article in one of the Dragon magazines about there can be 2 paladins that are actually fighting each other, and they bring it the Middle Ages, French knights fighting the English knights. They both, from their own culture, would be considered lawful good, but yet they are absolutely mortal enemies on the battlefield.
Yes. I mean, Mage's Musing is mentioned there. A lawful good cleric could be within their alignment and still want to kill prisoners within a certain context, if they have lawful authority to summarily execute criminals, for instance. I mean, yeah, there's a good question there. Should people know the alignments? I would quite happily run a game where people don't know each other's alignments, and it's everyone's job to play their alignment and other people's job to try and work out what's happening. I would say, one example in history, the Battle of Agincourt. Henry V unexpectedly took so many French prisoners during that battle that there was no way that they could safely keep them under control. So he gave orders to the bowmen to execute the ones that weren't worth as much. Now, from his troops' point of view, that's a perfectly reasonable act. Obviously, the French won't have thought so, but that shows how different societies could view different things. What is lawful good in one society might not be considered to be lawful good in another society. It's
a matter of perspective, isn't it? Well, in certain regards, at least.
Yes.
Well, absolutely. And you deal with that with, honestly, every culture. Like, the Russians probably think of themselves, I should say the Soviet Union thought of themselves as lawful good or lawful neutral, and everybody else was neutral at best. Whereas the rest of the world, it's just like John said with the French and the English. It's all on your perspective and what you deem correct.
Yeah.
We over here in America, we thought the Native Americans were bad guys. They thought we were the invaders.
Absolutely.
We were, don't get me wrong, but we thought we were doing the right thing.
Well,
General
Americans, they didn't think they were guys. They thought they were subhuman.
Yeah,
they were a useful tool.
True.
They were a resource,
correct,
and not a particularly valuable one.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna, despite the fact that Michael has made an excellent point there regarding playing evil, we'll have to approach the idea of playing evil at some point in a stream, because we have done that before. But I agree with what Michael said here. But then we need to get back onto topic, because Nutty is summoning the ghost of Saxius, who is playing a game tonight rather than chatting to us on stream. So, right, yes, I mean, it is about relationships. You're right, Straw Piglet. Relationships. I like to leave it as much up to the players as possible, but I do have a few ground rules. For example, if I'm starting a D&D game, I will say at the beginning what my expectations are of the players, if I have them. If it's a complete sandbox, there won't be the expectations so much as apart from, I want your characters to, you've got freedom to choose your characters, but I would prefer your characters got on with each other. But if it's not a sandbox, then I might define and say, all your characters know each other like this. These are the relationships. And have the players develop them from there. So how's the brother and sister working out for you in your game, Halakar?
Well, the brother died, so
okay.
That was the guy that doesn't play his characters very smartly. So
right,
he's on. Let's see, his human died. Then he decided he was going to play a dwarf, and the dwarf died. Now he's on a second dwarf. But it started out pretty well. The sister of the group is the dice were very fickle with her. She's a fighter with a 5 wisdom and I want to say a 7 intelligence.
Oh my god.
So she let her brother talk her into a lot of things, but she has a decent constitution and got some fairly good hit points. So she survived some of his dim-witted ideas that he was able to talk her into. So yeah, they did pretty good playing brother and sister, but he kind of used that to influence her when the party would vote on what they were going to do. He would use that, and he also had a fairly good charisma, so that helped. So yeah, he took advantage of it, and then when he got his dwarf, all of a sudden there was a massive drop in charisma, so he would try to sweet talk different people and have all sorts of penalties he didn't have before, and it would fail miserably. So that was a learning curve for him.
Well, obviously, yeah, the charisma mechanic is there to help drive these relationships in a way. I mean, a well-played character, according to their charisma, it will influence relationships within the game, not just with other players, but with NPCs. Are paladins allowed to fool around?
Depends on who they're a paladin to. A paladin of Aphrodite, you better believe it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it depends on the deities in your world and the expectations of the deities in the world. Traditionally, if you're playing the Holy Knight Paladin type, then I would say no. And in most games, that's the most likely sort of paladin, in my opinion, and so it should be. But it does, as you say, it depends on your pantheon. It depends on your deities. The paladin must stay true to the tenets of the deity. Do chaotics get married? Probably. Do they keep their vows? Probably not.
Ask me.
So what is a paladin by definition then? Is it like a holy knight or what?
Correct.
The paladin class drew its inspiration from the Knights of Charlemagne. The knights have taken a vow. The battle, those that would ride onto the battlefield with the cross,
like a sacred oath sort of thing.
Yeah, the sacred oath. Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Think of them as kind of like a fighter cleric.
Yes, yes.
That's not the best way to describe it.
Yeah, but they've opened up since then, and newer versions of D&D have got them in a wholly different light.
Well, yeah, because and I know we're getting off topic again, but in one of the Dragon magazines, because I played one, and I can't remember if they did them in the Paladin's Handbook or not, but they ended up making a Paladin or a Holy Warrior for every alignment.
But they didn't call them paladins.
No,
only the lawful good ones were paladins.
Yeah. The lawful good is paladin, and every alignment had a different title. I played.
Okay, so it's the same thing, but in a different role, basically.
Yeah,
and they had different abilities too. The true neutral one he was kind of a terror, because if anybody got too extreme in their extreme alignments, he just basically go out and kill them.
Actually, that's the one I played, was a true neutral,
because he had the cool story in the magazine. Yeah,
and each one you were allowed different weapons and different armor, which was kind of neat. I played a Paramander. And
what the fuck is that?
it was a true neutral paladin.
Oh, is that what it's called? Okay.
Yeah. But each one had a different title. Like paladin, like John said, paladin was lawful good. Paramander was.
So what was the chaotic evil one?
I can't remember.
I will say, I mean, on relationships, I've commonly found paladins to cause more relationship issues in a party, in a group, probably any other class,
because of their alignment,
because they can often be, well, they're designed to be quite rigid in their outlook.
I don't know. Ask John how he plays. What's his 52 name guy thing?
Oh, Albertus, yes, Albertus.
Yeah.
I am playing him the old-fashioned paladin way.
No, you're doing quite well at it.
I'd never played that.
It's so freaking annoying.
I'd never played that sort of character class before, so I thought I'd give it a go, and I'm hamming him up with every stereotype.
No, you're doing quite well with him.
Okay, I understand. Okay, you just throw in every trope like under the sun at him.
Hey,
just going with it.
Now, as far as relationships with my players and the NPCs, I like to have everything organic. I don't like to try to force anything. No. I mean, if they kill the person that's supposed to be giving them a quest, or they just totally ignore it, well, that's on them. But there's three things I try to give anybody they're going to encounter, and that's an objective, and a personality, and a motivation. So at one point, my players found a ring that the veterinarian had that allowed them to speak with a normal intelligence animal 5 sentences. Well, the veterinarian died in the flood. They found his body. They got his ring. At one point, there's wolves that are their food source has been destroyed, so they're attacking cattle. They track these wolves back down to their cave. They've got this ring, so they have. There's a lot of things they can do to try to influence this interaction. They can bring food. There's a lot of stuff they can do. Well, instead of going in there and I'm thinking, hey, they're gonna try to find out what it is the wolves want. They just go in there and they're like, you got to quit attacking the cattle. Well, the wolves' personality is, or their outlook is, they're a street gang, but they're animal intelligence street gang. So they're a street gang of kindergartners. What we want, when we want it now. But we are very big and tough 3 and 4 year olds with the king baby syndrome. And you're going to do what we want, and we're not going to give in to you, because honestly, we can kill your whole party without thinking about it. Well, they went in there thinking they're going to tell this pack of wolves what they're going to do. They pissed the wolves off, and it didn't go so well.
Yeah.
And after their 5 sentences of trying to bully the wolves, and now the ring also has a minor power. It doesn't make them immune to animals attacking them, but if they don't make the first move, an animal won't intentionally inflict harm on them. The animals will threaten them and bluff them and try to scare them away. Well, the dumb brother decides he's going to put his torch in the face of the alpha male wolf, Well, they considered that to be an attack.
Of course they do. Yeah, they hate fire.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, the wolves had, they had their personality. That they had their objective was to keep eating because they had 6 pups in their cave that they wanted to keep fed. Their personality was street gang, and their outlook was they were basically the intelligence of children. Very simplistic view of how they want to get things done. There's a wealthy farmer in town that once they get things done, his goal is to try to gain as much of the destroyed property as he can so he can put himself into the seat of the mayor. Well, he's got his goal is pretty obvious. He's got ambition. He's got his daughter is best friends with one of the player characters. So they, depending on how they interact with him, can set off different things. So anybody they run into is going to have these set of 3 things that they can bump their head against, they can go along with, or they can try to convert or subvert to modify.
Well, see, I mean, if you give your NPCs a personality, if you give your NPCs a motivation, that can help drive their relationship with the player characters. If you've got them approaching your world consistently, then some of them will develop friendships with your player characters. Others might become at odds with your player characters just through natural interactions and game mechanics. If you're using like reaction rolls, in a 2E AD&D game I played, right at the very start, the party's cleric tried to argue with the shopkeeper for a discount because he was helping set up the priesthood in the community, and got a terrible reaction roll, which helped drive a plot. It drove a wedge in the relationship between the priesthood and the mercantile class in the society, which then made for some interesting interactions from then on. So you can use mechanics to guide the relationships, mainly between NPCs and player characters, because I think the players should decide on what their characters do in terms of getting on with each other. Mechanics, reaction rolls are key, and they can help you develop the personalities of the. I mean, you've got a typical grey-faced NPC shopkeeper. You've got no idea what his name is. He only exists in your world to run the local shop. You only expect the players to go in there to buy flasks of oil, but you can have a reaction roll if they try and do something out of the norm, which can then give that NPC a bit of personality and develop some form of relationship with the party. Right. So it is Valentine's Day. So we're going to move on to the topic of relationships. We'll start off. I mean, obviously, you've had a brother and sister. Would you ever consider allowing player characters who are married?
I've got a pair of players that are married.
No, I said player characters who are married.
It has never come up. We had a player who had to leave the game because of other commitments. We kept his character in, who is now an NPC, and that's the one that married the rich farmer's daughter. So they are now they have a farm of their own. So that is a refuge. Whenever the party comes back to town, that is a safe place for them to stay. So they have interactions with a married couple, but it's no longer a player-driven interaction. So that's really the closest thing they got.
The closest thing I've ever had was I introduced a female NPC fighter, and actually no, there was 2 in that game. No, I'll go back to the beginning. The player who was playing the priest said at the start, "Could I have a girlfriend in the game. She could possibly work at the temple. Maybe a fiance. And she actually became quite an interesting NPC to have in the game. She would be arguing that she didn't want her fiance to go out adventuring. She was quite protective of him. And they got married in the game. And she had to nurse him back to health after he got badly beaten. And that player quite liked the idea of having a woman in town for his character to come back to and rest with. We never went into any gory details. That's a big no-no. Though we were, before that campaign petered out, before COVID and all that sort of stuff, I had a plot line where she was pregnant and they were gonna have a baby. And that was going to be the first baby born to anybody in this settlement. It was a big refugee settlement which they'd all built up, and the idea was that this was the firstborn child to any couple in that settlement, and thus there would be a significance. So I've used that to try and develop a storyline. We do have a Saxius joining us. Hello, Saxius. Hello, nice to have you here. Thought you were playing.
Saxius. I did. I finished.
Oh, right. Okay. Was it a quick game?
We started about an hour before you started the stream.
That else just killed everybody off.
So, personally, I mean, for me, relationships in the game with characters and NPCs or whatever aren't a no-no as long as the players approach them in a sensible and adult manner. Don't try to make it some sort of smutty joke. And it can be used to create ties to the society and have some purpose.
No, I agree. And to build on that, like my second edition group, one of the players basically began, in game, he began dating the daughter of the local, was like not merchant, but like basically one of the local grocers. So the daughter of that merchant, and that became a thing. And the player used adventuring as an excuse to basically gather up money to then start setting aside for them to have a house and ambitions and the whole 9 yards. And even in game, he then did the whole I will now propose, which many of the other players then made jokes of I sense in the powers of magic someone has made a terrible decision. Quick, why is my teleportation spell not ready? We must stop the bard.
Yeah.
And
we will come to the effects of the modern day bard in a bit. But
he was playing a bard, but he was playing the concept was it was a 17-year-old bard. He has just come out of his bardic training. He wanted to do something. He was young. He was inexperienced. And some of the older characters in the group was then going oh, you're 17. This is too early for you to make these sort of commitments. But it was good. It built a lot of character, and it was a huge thing with them, with the idea of them then getting married, having a house. And naturally, everything that's good, I killed the bard, which then, of course, generated a lot of investment from the players, because there was more at stake than just a fellow player losing a character. It was the sign of
his actions and the dice killed him.
No, I was very happy that he made certain decisions that allowed me to use certain decisions that allowed me to put him in a position where he would die. I will not hide behind the whole thing. It was his actions. No. I saw that opportunity. I did my best to orchestrate it. He followed the bread trail. It's his fault, but I knew what I was doing. So anyway, it then became a big thing because it wasn't just a fellow player losing a character. It was a loss for the entire village that they came from. It was the loss of the local bard, the one everyone looked at and basically went, this is everyone's little brother suddenly finding love, proper love, innocent love, and everyone was protecting him. All the other NPCs were protecting him, even till in the current campaign, one of the NPC rangers is still referencing this character saying, I can't go to this tavern anymore because I don't hear his laughter, I don't hear him playing his music. I just can't go back there. It's too hurtful.
That's good role playing though from on the part of the player, to bring up things like that, to develop that sort of attachment.
Yeah.
I was going to say the other relationship I had in that AD&D game, in addition to that the cleric character getting married, was the party was quite small, and in second edition AD&D, a small party, because of the mechanics, it can all be a little bit swingy. So I thought the party could do with another fighter in there. So I introduced a young female fighter who was she was a very, very good girl. She was lawful good. And she looked up to the party's paladin. And that's how it all sort of started off. Both of the characters had very low intelligences. Both of them played it. I played her to be imperceptive to anything that was said, and he played his character to be the paladin to be to get the wrong end of the stick quite a lot. And we had about 6 months of a will they, won't they between the two characters. They were never going to. That was the whole idea. They were never going to, but it was actually fun to play out a sort of a will they, won't they sort of scenario where they would both really look out for each other and they both really look to protect each other. And the player played into it very well. And him being a traditional paladin, believing in his oaths and being very lawful good and wanting to be a shining bastion of the society and be a role model, she really looked up to him because of that. Equally, she respected that side of him. And he was very respectful towards her in the same way. And it was enjoyable to play out the character developing that, the player's character developing that sort of connection with an NPC, but not in a childishly sort of smutty way, in like a natural way where they were going on adventures, they were looking out for each other. It was obvious that they cared for each other, but it would be left hanging if anything would ever happen a long time in the future. We never know. That campaign never continued. So the answer was no, they didn't. But it was fun to play out. And I know some people, I mean, I see people have said that relationships in games can be quite cringe, but I think if you approach them in a sensible manner and a somewhat realistic manner, they can be quite natural and can actually help people sort of bind into the game world pretty well.
I think if someone role plays them and makes them feel real and authentic, then it's not cringe. But if someone has no idea what they're doing, it's very cringe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's basically it.
Again, like some of it will come out naturally, some of it won't. What's also down for the players also having their own self-awareness of like what is okay to do, what is not okay to do.
Yeah. I see TN Tories asking about real life relationships.
Yeah.
Have any of you ever played in a group where there is a boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, any other form of partner?
Yeah.
That one Warhammer 40k game that I've ever played in my life, 2 of the players were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Right.
I have a horror story. Well, actually, a couple horror stories and a couple of good stories.
Yeah.
Okay, so my aunt and her ex-husband, he was in the Army, so she was on whatever. I want to say they were in Hawaii, actually. He was a D&D player, and she would play just because the gaming group was at their house. Well, whenever they would start a new game and they would find her character, they would find her character, think of your favorite scene from the Palace of the Silver Princess. Well, every male PC in the group would take their turn with her character tied down, strapped on whatever torture device she was on. So she was basically emotionally abused by him and all his friends as her introduction every time she brought a new character in the game. Surprisingly, they got divorced. So
yeah,
that's the worst outcome I've heard of. I've got a couple that play right now that do wonderfully together. I mean, their real life doesn't show up in the game at all. That's my cat. That's Trebulus, the boy mage, master of the universe, and my low intelligence fighter, and they do perfectly well together.
I have a go on.
No, go ahead. I mean, I've seen both ends of the spectrum, and I've seen the boyfriend and girlfriend groups that have run the gamut as well.
The main group I played with for years, we played every Sunday, every holiday. It was the oldest brother, the younger brother, and their little sister. And we went to the same high school and everything. Well, her and I ended up dating in real life. So then they figured out some way that our characters did whatever. Well, after about 3 months in real life, her and I split up. So then her magic user and I was playing a Druid Ranger, Tross. And well, we got into it. I ended up killing her. Well, the thing is, we weren't even angry at each other over the split up or anything. It was just, I don't know, natural progression. Maybe it was passive, whatever. But we weren't ever angry with each other at all about any of it. It was still like, okay, yeah, we're not going to date anymore. I'll see you Sunday. And I ended up killing her character.
I mean, I've played in one group with a married couple for any length of time, and I must say it enlivened the group because the banter between them was fantastic. He was the DM and she was playing a character, and there was always a lot of banter, and there'd be a lot of jokey. I'm on the sofa tonight. That's that sort of thing. that sort of thing. But
yeah,
it didn't affect the way the game played at the table because they were a sensible adult couple who had a good relationship. There was no attempt to garner any extras from the DM. He didn't favor her character. The times when her pets got killed, she'd be jokingly thrumming her fingers on the table, going, and he'd be thinking, "Oh, we knew it was all tongue in cheek."
I have in my real life group, I have a couple girlfriend boyfriends, and they don't bring any of their relation into the game. As a matter of fact, their characters are on very different spectrums when it comes to like how they interact with the group. But that's about it. Like that's how they are doing it. But that's because I've made it clear, we're here to play the game. Yes. And that's it. Yes. And we've all come to agree that. We've all come to understand that. And after about a year and a half of them playing with me, they all know what they're getting and they like what they're receiving. So they continue with as is. We've all given horror stories here about how it can work. We've all said it can work and it's gone on, but end of the day it's down for whether the maturity of the individuals or the couples in this case are able to then say, right, at this point it's not about us anymore, it's about the group fun, and that's, from my point of view, that is the thing that is more important than anything else. I don't care about the baggage you have from elsewhere. I mean, I've taken one of my other players aside a few weeks ago, and I've told him, you had a rough week, but you decided to bring it into the game. You continued after several warnings to bring it into the game, and I've now done this. This is your fault. The group is suffering because of you, and you can, well, you can deal with that.
We all have bad days, and it can be difficult to keep. If you're in a bad mood, it can be difficult to keep that out. But
that's right.
Yeah, the key is to try to do your best to keep it out.
Listen, you know what you are feeling yourself better. Like, you know what's going on in here better than anyone else at the table. So you are also the one that should know when to say, listen, tonight is not my night. I have had a terrible thing. I'm going to bring baggage in here. Can I just sit and listen? Can I maybe do a few things? Or can you just not put me on the spotlight? Like, just focus on everyone else except for me. I'll roll the combat stuff. I just want to be a part of it, have an excuse to get my XP and do that. But like, you as a player, you also need to know when to say, right, now I can participate, or now I need to pull back.
Well, that's like, and this goes kind of like what you're saying. I had that issue with the ex-girlfriend. Immediately after that, it was back to normal. I mean, yeah, we never dated again, but we played for probably another 10 years together. And and we sat across from each other, her and her husband, and we were all good friends and everything. But it was just, and I didn't even kill her character intentionally. It's just, we had a moral dilemma, and we would have, not even her and I, but we would, in the group, every group, you're going to have intergroup strife where you don't agree. Goes back to alignment issues. And, you know, we had pizza and pop together every week for almost 12 years. So it wasn't that I did it out of spite. It just happened that like a week or two after we split up that, oh shit, I'm sorry, I just killed your character. But my first wife, I DM for her, I DM for my wife now. We don't carry stuff into, like you were saying, Saxius, you don't carry the stuff into the game, you leave it out. And, you know, if you're going to have an issue, you sit out or you back off. Like, there's days on Saturdays where if I'm not feeling it, I take the way back seat, and I'm like, I just feel like, yeah, okay, I'll do this. And I don't have a lot of input. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah, I mean, as General Nutt says up there, if you're going to be in a bad mood, leave the game. I mean, you can always sit out a session. A good group will be understanding if you're not feeling in the right frame of mind. You've just got to be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, and it will help with everybody else. Straw Piglet has asked, can it strengthen a relationship? I would say in the right sort of group where you are playing with friends in a good, solid game where everyone knows, everyone's approaching it in a mature way. Yes, it can. But I will also say that it could, in the wrong sort of group, it could certainly sour it.
Yeah, it all depends. Yeah.
Depends on the people. Depends on the people.
Yeah. It depends on your co-players. You know, is the group you're playing with kind of douchebaggy?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'll even take it a step in the other direction. I mean, there's also times where, you know, it probably won't help at all. I mean, I'll use my wife as an example. I have invited her for I don't know how many years to come to my game. However, she has rightfully pointed out, I have an unnatural, gleeful, happy look whenever I describe how I plan to brutally make my players' life miserable. Like, it's like a level of happiness that she's just like, Oscar, there's something wrong with you. And I don't want to sit in a game where you will try to make my life unhappy and you find it funny that I then have to make your life unhappy. Like, I don't see that.
That's called It's called being sadistic.
Yes.
I mean, that's almost similar to what Mage was saying earlier. Mage said he got his ex into D&D and she played very well, but her approach to the game was more being a social event.
No.
So it's conflicting play styles.
Yeah.
Can as long as your play styles gel, by all means,
Yeah,
play with your partner.
But there's nothing wrong with having like a beer and chips game. Like if that's what everyone's there for, it's like okay, we're here to just have fun, right? Roll some dice, probably get sidetracked a lot and just have a social event. That's fine. But again, like I think we've said so many times, like just align what the expectations are of the game. Because if I come into a game, I want something a little bit more serious, something I can put my teeth into, something I can, munch on some rules. And if I come in and the majority of people are like, nope, kick down the door, kill the goblin, take the loot, go for XP, move on, no interactions, like nothing, just kill, munchkins, then I might just say, you know what, that's maybe not for me, but I can certainly enjoy it if that's the mind frame I go in with, where it's kick down door, kill thing,
order a curry, crack open a beer, and just have a laugh.
Yeah, like again, you gotta know what you walk into, and just have that mindset.
I'm glad you mentioned goblins because you might have seen General Nut has mentioned. And I started as soon as I saw it because, of course, there was a relationship in that game, wasn't there?
Ah, for fuck's sake, go on.
No, I'd like you to describe it.
No, you always do this. You always do this, you abusive little Englishman.
Whoa, pot kettle black.
I'm Danish. I'm expected to be brutal and terrorizing people. John, on the other hand, is expected to be showing up wearing a top hat and monocle and going, "Good day, my sir."
But of course,
go on.
My poor little goblin never got his fade to black moment with his beautiful new bride, did he? No, he got married in the game. He married the leader, the icon of the goblin tribe, the beautiful Granny Herpes.
Oh my God. I'm glad I didn't have a drink in my mouth.
Listen, you are forgetting the bells were ringing and then it fell.
I was going to come to that.
Fine.
They'd been married for about 5. They'd been married for about 5 minutes, and the bell was ringing, but it was in the Goblin Barn, and nothing was all put up properly, and everything was a bit loose and rickety. And the bell came tumbling down, and the falling bell killed her and knocked him out. So he woke up never knowing whether he'd
whether he'd done it.
Yeah, whether he'd done it with his new bride. Yes, yeah, he never knew because
everyone assumes he did because they got privacy.
They got privacy, yeah, but he was out cold and she was dead.
You're a goblin. That shouldn't matter.
Oh,
yeah.
Why didn't that happen in my first wedding?
Now, one thing I've noticed, the chat has still been talking a little bit about the players that are in a relationship. Something I've noticed: 2 players that are in a relationship and how it affects the game and how the game affects them has changed. Is a lot different now in my mid-50s than it was when 2 players were in a relationship in our mid-teens.
It's down to maturity, isn't it? I think it's down to maturity.
When you were in your teens, you're all I'll protect her, blah blah blah. Now you're like, yeah, whatever, go do your own thing.
Well, it was a guarantee. If Michelle the cheerleader was gaming with us, you knew who was getting the best magic items every time loot was split. You knew who was getting the cold bottle of Mountain Dew. You knew who was getting the Doritos out of the top of the bag that weren't crunched. I mean,
yeah.
Oh my God!
I don't blame anyone for that, though. I will not blame anyone for that.
We're all men. It is what it is.
I will say to you now, the day that Susanna Hoff signs into my Discord server and joins in our OSE game,
you're going to black out your screen, and
we're all going to be in chat.
and hopefully mute it also.
He's going to go on mute, very quickly.
Black out your screen and mute it.
Well, see,
Right.
and
You know what? I feel like I guess my equivalent would be like if you're playing a video game split screen with your girlfriend and you take it easy on her because you know that she can't beat you.
Yeah.
And see, I have to refer that back to her own song. If she knew what she wants, obviously it's going to be one of us, right?
I'll fight you for Halakar.
Yeah, well,
Do you know what? I'll put my money on John. I know he's a good fighter.
I'm tiny though. I'm tiny.
Doesn't matter.
I put my money on
Technique.
Hellcat. Marine. You can't take the Marine out of any man.
There is that. Yep.
True.
Okay, then.
All right, back to the topic.
I'm going to be the third man in. I'll be 500 yards out. You guys will never hear the shot, and she'll go home with me.
Oh, for fuck's sake, that's just no. Back to topic.
Back to topic. Right.
Did you see that Pulse Fire now has an under rifle flamethrower adapter for AR-15 frames?
Yes, that is so cool.
And it's only $500.
Yeah, I saw that. Actually,
What?
I watched a video on that.
An underbarrel flamethrower.
Yes.
Yeah.
With a 4-second self-contained pack or a 4-minute backpack fuel cell.
It uses the 4-second one is about the size of a Pepsi bottle. It attaches on the underside like the M30 grenade launcher. Yeah, I just saw that last week.
Yes, we're going to go off that topic.
Yes, thank you very much.
Saxius is the one that put the thing on Discord about having to build more decks on the ship to put more guns on. And that got me thinking about no, you don't build more decks. You build a new weapon and say, hey, we don't have anything to put this in. Let's build a new device to carry this.
The A10 Warthog.
And that's how you get the A10.
Right. Okay. Back to topic now. Let's just dive into the dark and dirty, because relationships in games, in the game, not at the table, tend to get a bad rep because children and certain types of people use it as an excuse to bring up topics that aren't always suitable for the most family-friendly tables. I'm firmly in favor, when I'm playing a fantasy game, of keeping it very much, you would say PG-13, I believe, in America, or something like that.
Yeah.
Where things might be hinted at. There's fading to black.
But they're not explicitly stated as such.
Nothing is explicitly stated as such. You have little hints. Your characters might visit a whorehouse. And you might go, make a performance roll as a joke. That sort of thing. But that's all off camera. However, when you're playing a game that's explicitly aimed towards adults, how far do you lot go if the genre is slightly different? I'm going to come to mine afterwards, but are there any situations where you would allow a little more description? Not the sort that would get you know the type, the bloke who's never been out of his mum's basement, who sits there and goes boobies and gets
that's what I'm picturing.
Obviously not that sort of person, but if you're all adults at the table, you're relatively well-adjusted adults at the table, how far do you allow it to go? And
I've got one
regarding which genres. Now I'm going to come to me last, so I don't want Iman, you mentioning our Tuesday night game here.
What with no, that's too far. No, I was thinking as like a joke, if I was running Dracula, or just as an example, but I wanted to make him gay, for example, I might make him suck the blood out of a different place than the neck, but I would still like imply it. I wouldn't necessarily just outright state it. People can use their imagination and know what I mean. There's a humor element to it. I'm not doing it to be crass necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, keeping it humorous. Yeah, you've got to know your group when you approach anything. Yes. So Halakar, are there any circumstances where you would allow any more description?
It's not really my thing. I mean, I can't think of a game. Well, we played one game. I don't remember even where the adventure came from, if it was in a dungeon magazine or what. But it was when Oriental Adventures first came out, and it involved Kappa, and there was some shady stuff going on because that's just what Kappa do. And we were 18, 19 at the time, and right in the throes of being stupid teenagers. And even then, it's like, you know what? No, we didn't finish it. It's never been my thing.
Okay. And Saxius and Daniel, you two?
Do you want to go first, Daniel?
Sure. I'm along with Halakar. We had a group of up to like 8 people, and this is in my late teens, early 20s. It never came up. And then even in my early and mid 30s, we never got into that aspect of the game. Okay. And especially with the first DM, I call him our forever DM, but every once in a while me and his brother would run. But he would have never allowed anything like that at all. But nobody was ever really interested in it, anything like that anyhow. So
no, I agree. Like the absolute most I think I've ever done has been Fade to Black. It's explicit. Like I would say, these two characters now going to have sex, but that was with adults playing the game. But then that's it. Like that's off into the distance there. I don't want to spend time with that. I have had one player who wanted to push it by making some odd, implying some really odd things, and I just went, stop. Just stop right there. We're not dealing with this. But at the moment, the most that I'm really doing is I might describe certain creatures. Like at the moment, one of my games are dealing with the Fae, so there's a lot of extraordinarily beautiful creatures that are presented before the players. There's a lot of charm rolls, but I want to then sort of like incorporate in the whole ethereal beauty that they're dealing with. So I might be putting some bit more emphasis on this, but again, I don't really see the benefits of a lot of this unless it is an organic thing, usually that's generated by the players.
So the genre I was hinting at is for me is horror, because last night in our Call of Cthulhu game, the group encountered one particular bad guy. And I'm running a Call of Cthulhu game, and it is my job to make it horrific. This is a published Call of Cthulhu scenario, and there is a lot of background regarding this particular bad guy, which details his level of depravity. And a lot of this
does it detail it? Oh, yeah, it's not just hinted at.
There's bits that I hinted at, but certainly in the Reign of Terror prequel, which a number of regulars played in, they got to witness what he was forcing people to get up to. And this is all part of this bad guy's character. It's to make you hate him. He's clearly disgusting. He's been thrown into an asylum and left to rot because he is an embarrassment on an embarrassment on the French aristocracy, which is a pretty sordid thing anyway. And they've just encountered him in 1923, 130 years later, and he's clearly undead. And my job as the DM of a horror game is to make him truly horrific. And
he does a fucking good job, let me tell you, everybody.
So there will be things I have said to the players in that session which might be considered to be a little bit uncomfortable when I'm playing as him. I'm not going to go into descriptions of specific physical acts, but he's going to talk about what he wants to do, the sort of things he likes.
Warmth.
He's already started doing that. Yes, he's already started doing that.
Warmth.
And that's how I would consider it to be acceptable to go a little bit beyond the line, if you know what I mean.
But it's within, it's part of that character's personality that you're able to do that.
Yes.
But the difference here is, though, this is clearly something where there's been taken care of building this into the character. It's been built into the entire atmosphere. And within somewhere like Call of Cthulhu, where horror and disgust and these themes are very present, it's an expected thing at that point. That's where you go out and do it. Hell, even if when I ran Strahd, there are certain themes I just didn't feel was worthwhile to bring in to the game, purely because, yes, I can make him into a creepy stalker and so on, but not all the players in that group were sitting and going well, that's what we want to hear, because some people have had bad experiences or have had experiences where they were stalked by creepy men. Why bring that in for that game? I've got other ways of doing horror that way. I mean, having a vampire like Strahd being able to do that, he's got other characteristics, but similar to what John was saying, this character, this French aristocrat, with what he has done, because he is such the absolute degenerate, it's a part of it, and that is a huge buy-in for the campaign. Yeah. So it's go on.
I'm pretty sure I said to the players beforehand, there are adult elements to this campaign. You've all got to be okay with that if you're going to play. And they all said, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I made sure to wear my big boy pants before we started.
Yep. That's again, it's setting the tone of the game. And for something like what John's describing, you have to make it very clear. There are going to be some uncomfortable themes in here, and as players, you have to understand.
The thing that John did really well, he built up the suspense to the character reveal. The character reveal itself was horrifying, but then when the character starts speaking, I was like, ugh, ugh. So it's like three whole elements.
No.
Yeah, it was gross. But it was really well done. You did it really well. The suspense, the reveal, and then the disgust afterwards. It wasn't just horror; it was horror and disgust.
Yeah. But I think as G-Master or G-Master, whatever, is pointing out, there's a lot of imply and tell but not show, which is what I'm hearing that John has been doing. There's a lot of it's all up here. It's all up here. And this is where you can really get the players going. You don't need pictures. All you need is their imagination to run wild. They will do. Theater of the mind will take care of that.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Oh yeah, what did he have? He had dead flesh rotting, hanging off him or something.
Oh, it is such a shame that she is now cold, but I sense that you are warm. There is warmth in your blood. I need warmth. I need the touch of warmth.
So one of our characters was straight up shit scared.
With just cold flesh.
One of our characters was straight up shit scared and ran away instantly. I just stood there like talking shit to him.
Yeah, something like that's not so bad, but I mean, they're what was it? I think it was in 3rd edition. They came out with the Book of Vile Darkness and all that stuff. That was, I did 13 years working as a substance abuse and mental health therapist, and some of the stories I would hear from these young ladies that their meth head boyfriends had done to them in the throes of their addiction. It's like, I don't need to relive my own tertiary trauma from having to hear day in and day out the stories of what these people have gone through in my role-playing games.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, hell, I play fantasy to escape. I want to go into a fantasy land where I can go and be doing awesome things, or to go and experience awesome things. And if I need, trauma and things like that, I'll pick up Call of Cthulhu. But then at that point, I'm choosing violence that morning.
Yes. You need to know the game, what the game is going to be like before you sign up for it. I mean, you don't do the dick thing and just spring it on players who haven't signed up for that approach of game.
Honor. Yeah.
It's. Say what G Master says there. What is the intent and motive? I mean, you don't play out the specific acts in detail, but if you've got a villain who thrives on that sort of thing, and it's all part of getting the players to hate the villain and to make the villain into the most disgusting thing you want him to be, because disgust is part of horror, then you drop the hints. You have the character sort of skirt along the edge of it as much as possible. I will not describe him performing something physically disgusting, but I will have him hint at what he likes, and I will drop little bits and pieces in there to get the players' imaginations going. And it's up to their brains what they conjure up then. You just put little seeds in there. But that's all. So I certainly, I would, and I do go beyond PG-13 when it comes to horror in terms of sexual content, though it's not explicit. I've got a number of really good Call of Cthulhu scenarios. There's one where the entity is killing sex workers. So the player characters are going to go to some very sordid places. And that is the storyline. But I would not play that with a group who I thought were at all fragile. Because you have to have moments in there which set the scene. It's all part of horror. You have that sort of exploitation horror, don't you?
Yeah. But again, it's a part of the theme, it's a part of the setting, it's a part of the module at that point. So yeah. Well, again, being transparent about that, these are going to be themes that will show up at some point in the campaign. That's needed. As Hallegar said, not everyone's there to expose these things. No. Again, like I know what I want out of my games, and which is usually not really that much. I mean, I don't normally play horror games because I detach myself from the characters very much, and it becomes a numbers games to me. That's because I've gone through so many characters. I've had so many funnels. I've just gone like, don't matter. They're numbers. Make it to level 5, and I might care about the name I've jotted down on you. It's like I am very detached when it comes to these characters when I play. But that's something I've self-inflicted at this point.
But I think that's one of the things these days that you hear a lot of stories about people becoming very attached to the characters. So they become an extension of themselves. I've seen so many reports of people reacting really badly to the way their characters are treated and blaming other players and DMs for being horrible to them.
That's again, like, you got to be able to detach yourself to a certain amount. Like, thinking that this character is you in this game, it's an easy enough way of like basically making yourself and putting it in there. That's easy for beginners, and it's how I would recommend most people to get it there so that they get used to the game.
When my character goes insane, I'm gonna flip insane at you in real life as well, John.
I frequently bring up to my players, remember, we're playing first edition. It's a little more rough than what you're used to, and your characters are very fragile. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Squishy.
Well, yeah, it's like, I'm surprised Angus made it this far.
It's because you rolled a very high constitution to begin with your dwarven +1, pushing your lovely 17 up to an 18, and then you rolled maximum hit points for your first 3 levels.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why. He is a tank. He is an absolute unit. He's not very strong. He's not very bright. He's not particularly likable. But he's
a bullet sponge.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. But to go with what you guys were saying about people getting attached to their characters, I've literally been in situations where people have thrown books and crap because their character got whacked. And like Saxius said, it's numbers. Yeah, we know you have time invested in it, but you play this game to spend time. So spend more time. I don't know how to simplify it even more.
I wonder what these guys would react like if they got fired from their job.
Depends on how attached they are to their job.
I spent 10 years working for this company, god damn it.
Well, it all depends.
Like if you the movie Falling Down.
Absolutely.
Oh, there you go. Very good reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you're meant to say you've been attached to characters there, General, not attacked to characters. but yeah, like when you spill something on the sheet and it sticks to you, yes.
What not means is that someone's come up with a character sheet and stapled it to him.
Yes.
Nice.
But TN Tory, don't you have NPCs you get attached to? I mean, it's natural to develop an attachment to a character that you've portrayed for a long time. I do think it's daft to become attached to your character in the first few sessions. But if you've played a character for 6 months or whatever, and you like playing that character, it is natural to feel some form of attachment. But you, as Axis has said, you've got to be able to put that line in place between you and the character.
Yeah. That's like right now, I don't know who would be more bummed when Angus gets whacked, me or the group.
Oh, the rest of the group, because he's the talisman.
So yeah,
he's level 4 with 31 hit points. I mean, and he's a cleric in OSE, and that's immense. Yes, he rolled 1 at 4th level, but he rolled maximum for the other 3 levels. He's got really lucky.
So yeah, I mean, I'll be upset and I'll be bummed, but like Oscar said, it's numbers. You know, that's why I'm working on Orlog. I'm kind of liking his big, dumb, strong, fast ass, you know.
I mean, I quite like Albertus. I know you lot don't, but I quite like Albertus.
Well, I like how... No, I don't like him, but I love how you play him.
Yes. He's my... For those in chat, he is my paladin. And I intentionally made him not particularly likable. He's very stuffy and up himself.
And what I like is the relationship him and Angus have.
Yes. Yeah. He looks up to Angus. Because Angus is brave and strong. or brave and tough.
But Angus doesn't particularly like his paladin hood. You know what I mean?
He respects his bravery, though. That's the thing.
There's a
There's a
I like how we're playing those two against whatever you want to call each other. It's working out well. That goes back to relationships. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, they've got respect for each other's bravery and each other's martial prowess. Though Angus has shown up a little bit more than Albertus. Albertus has taken a kicking a few times, but he keeps coming back for more. But no, you shouldn't get attached to characters straight away. It's one of the reasons I don't believe in crafting big, long, extensive backstories, and I don't want players to do that.
There are games where it's good to do that, though. I'll use like Vampire the Masquerade, where the entire character building is like, no, but my point is like when you build a character, like you start from when they were human, what they went through, what they were doing with their lives.
Are you talking about the video game?
No, I'm talking about the role-playing game.
Oh, I didn't know they had one. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
maybe that's what the video game is based off.
It is same statistics and everything. So you go through basically build the human before it became a vampire, like all the way up, and then why they were attracted, why one of the vampire clans picked them, and then what they went through for like 25 years, developing up from a novice or a kindred into a full-fledged vampire. If you go that far, then that puts in a lot of efforts on the player side. Because now you've got to put in all of this, because it's not just a piece of paper with stats on them. It's a fully fleshed out character from, what he went through in his adult life, why he became a vampire, what he's had to endure as a vampire until he got to this point. And that's assuming you haven't even gone in and picked certain points, like you made him 300 years old. Well, now you need to go into a lot more details of what he's been doing for 300 years, or when he went to sleep, when he woke up, and there's a bigger investment at that point. But that's the point. You are playing an old vampire. You are already like 50, 75 years beyond, where you probably would be. You should have a character that you are attached to. There should be history attached to this character when you play Vampire the Masquerade. And that's the point of the game.
When I played Vampire, my character had a son, and we were talking about family relations, and it seemed like every other time we played, and my character and his son weren't together, but every other time we played, it's like, oh well, somebody has kidnapped your son, or you find out something has happened to your son, so it's always a rescue him, or doing the people that were trying to harm him. So finally, my character just drained him. Like, you know what? I'm tired of this. So I didn't even embrace him. I just flat out killed him. Hey, you know what? I'm tired of all these adventure hooks.
Well, yeah, no. If you're going to be overusing a trope, then that's understandable. Like at that point, like, well, what's the point? Yeah. Like, well, I mean, I've even had like one of my Shadowrun games. One of the players said that he basically had a family member that was dependent on him, because the family member was basically he needed to be taken care of. And the guy would then go out doing shadow running to earn the money to come back so he could look after his brother, because he needed assistance. He needed a lot of help. So it drains his bank accounts quite a lot. But again, like this is the sort of like backstory and the sort of relationship that helped build upon the character. It helped me also create events and situations. I mean, in the Shadowrun game, I put a lot of emphasis on community, so I would have a lot of like neighbors that would be like, "Oh, are you going out working tonight?" It's like, "Yeah, I am." That's all right. I'll look after him. If you need anything, I can stay over. If it goes out on longer, I'll ask, Mr. Johnson down the road, and so on and so on. Like it became this big thing about like the community that supported each other, especially in a game like Shadowrun, where corporations are trying to break you down into profit margins, and then that was the point of the game. Like it changed for that. Anyway, I think I am gonna have to call it out from my side, but thanks for having me on.
No worries, Saxius. Thank you for joining. You haven't got a channel to shill, so we won't do that.
No. Right. Take care, everyone.
Cheers, all.
See you later, bud.
Now, monster relationships. I never understood, keep on the Borderlands, how all those creatures and all those caves so close together could possibly survive.
Yeah. I mean, that's one people have obviously argued about keep on the Borderlands with the various monster caves in such close proximity. And I know there are a lot of DMs that Iman, is that you in the with all the background?
Apologies. Yep.
But
Hashtag making a brew.
That's all right. That's all right. Certainly, I mean, in the hands of a good DM, though, you could develop politicking between the various tribes in there, but they are all just that little bit close together for my liking in the module. And there's too many different types. Really, it feels a bit like a menagerie. If there's 3 or 4 different tribes, maybe, and a slightly bigger area, you could get away with, you could get around it. But I mean, it does explain it to a degree.
Piglet, straws and bears. Owls and bears. I'm sorry. That's funny.
Owls and bears, yeah. No, and by the law, an owl-bear wasn't created naturally. It was
by wizard.
Yes.
I thought it was created by a Chinese toy company. The Gygax had a bag of little plastic figures.
Yes, that's the origin story of the owl.
Because I've still got a rust monster somewhere from that bag.
yes, and the bullet. But yeah, it's sometimes printed modules can certainly B2. It does strain it does strain you a little bit to sort of push your what's the phrase I'm looking for? Oh.
Willful suspension of disbelief.
That's exactly the one I was looking for. So, yeah, bringing in sort of politicking between monsters and relationships between monsters, I find it quite an interesting topic where players can use certain monsters' animosity for other monsters against them, and I think that's an interesting area of the game that a lot of players don't think about. And certainly we go back to reaction rolls. If you get a favorable reaction roll with a tribe of goblins, yes, they're nasty little buggers, but they've reacted to you favorably, and surely you can use that. And they might have other tribes of goblins they dislike, or they might be put upon by hobgoblins or gnolls. They might well be willing to fight. And you look at, there were certainly aspects of that in some of those old adventures. Look at G1, Steadying the Hill Giant Chief. You had all those orc slaves kept in the cells. You could foster a relationship with those orc slaves by freeing them, and they would fight for you. They'd be very useful and very, very almost fanatical force against their oppressors, who are the hill giants in that case. And there's an example of animosity that, even though it could have been spelled out more in the adventure, a DM can certainly use that, and clever players can certainly use that to their benefit.
Oh yeah, I mean there are all sorts of short-term. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yeah. There's always going to be the draw of profit, or expanding territory, or gaining power, or prominence of some kind. If it's control over resources, whether it's a water source or agricultural regions or whatever. If you're trying to mine some kind of precious resources, and There's some little small critter that can get into parts of the cave system that you can't. Why not try to befriend them?
Absolutely, and resourceful players should look into that as an approach. In my MERP game at the moment, the current situation in Cardalan is that there is a troll warlord who is a half troll who's got human levels of intelligence or above. He's actually a very intelligent individual who's using troll armies to push the he's allied with Angmar, and he's causing all sorts of mayhem down there, but he hates orcs. He doesn't want orcs anywhere near his lands, so he's driving the orcs out of his lands, and the orcs are then moving into human lands and becoming a pest. So you've got that balance of power there. You've got the humans who just really want to live in peace, being terrorized by orcs, who are being driven into their lands by a troll and his army. And these are different monster factions, albeit with the orcs being scattered. The orcs have just been, so far, all the party have encountered are various groups of orcs. There could easily be developments where they might find a tribe of orcs, but I haven't thrown that into the game yet. But certainly there is the opportunity there for allegiances that wouldn't otherwise happen. And I've tried to sow those seeds as opportunities in there, because they all fear this, like you were saying with Tharistan, all the gods gang against Tharistan. Quite often, you have to side with people you wouldn't otherwise side with in order to take out a greater threat.
Yeah, it's a mutual game, isn't it?
Yes. And relationships between warring factions of monsters can play a major part in that.
Well, and I like, speaking of that, in WG4, I don't remember if it was some of the random encounters you could have on the way to the temple, but they talked about some of the specific tribes of gnolls you could run into. There was the one that had their shield emblem was a spear through an eye. So there were specific tribes, so it wasn't just you run into gnolls and all gnolls have the same purpose and goals in life. There were you had plains gnolls and hill gnolls, and just like you had different types of dwarves and elves and everything else. So that put another layer into their table of operations.
And these sort of relationships tend to be sort of more on a larger scale as well. I would generally draw the line at player characters befriending a monster, because after all, this is an evil creature that cannot be trusted. Certainly anything beyond half an hour from now, but there might be very short-term benefits which can be gained from individual creatures as well.
Well, think of the lizard men in Saltmarsh. Yes. I mean, lizard men are neutral. They're not actually evil, but they're oftentimes seen as an enemy of humans. Yeah. But they have the potential to be long-term allies of the Saltmarsh community.
Yes, if you take on their hated enemy, if you fight with them against the, however you pronounce it, Sawagin,
right?
Sahwagins.
Oh, I know this one. I sent you a picture of it in the chat once. The Sahagin,
Sahwagin. Yeah, yes, but that is a perfect example of the players fostering a relationship with a race that are normally portrayed as being monstrous, because they normally come into conflict with humans over territory, security, or whatever. But that's
you were talking about alignments, but just because something is a monster, does that make it necessarily evil?
No, of course not.
No,
of course not.
No, it could be a better.
So what defines it as a monster then?
It looks different than us.
Just its appearance.
Well, in AD&D, a monster, in terms of mechanics, was officially anything that was not a player character.
Okay.
First,
But
yeah,
in AD&D, yeah, that's how Gygax defined it. But you can take it a step beyond that. Mark Hawkman's got it there, not a player character. It was the simple definition in AD&D.
What, so technically NPCs are monsters?
You were meant to use the monster attack tables for NPCs. I never did.
Okay.
I never did. If they had a class, I would use the relevant relevant class attack tables and saving throws. I wouldn't use the monster ones, but I know the intention was to use the tables based on the monsters. But yes, the bestiary in early D&D had humans in as a monster.
Okay.
Different types of humans: tribesmen, pilgrims, berserkers. They were all listed as monsters and had XP values and treasure types and percentage in lair and things like that.
Very interesting. And they had different alignments as well, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, of course. You got monsters in there that were lawful good. Gold dragons, flumps were lawful good.
Just gonna say though,
Quatul. Then you had the flying goat or lamb or whatever it was.
Kirin. The Kirin, yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Unicorns.
That's in a fighting fantasy book.
The unicorns were chaotic good, weren't they? I think. But
that meant they were more aligned with the elves.
All right. Okay.
Could a doppelganger fall in love with a human? I would say no.
No, they're
driven by their hunger.
Exactly.
What's a doppelganger in D&D?
A shape changer.
Yeah.
They're their own race.
It still counts as a monster, though.
Oh, absolutely. And they are. If a DM plays them right, you will have a TPK in one night, one by one. People will disappear.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me. They are neutral, yes. They are neutral in AD&D. I believe they're chaotic in basic D&D, though. So it's different. There were differences.
You described them as shapeshifters or shape changers, but I'm assuming it's like shapes that are a similar sort of volume, if you will. Like they can't change into a knife, for example.
No, what they do is they'll look at you, morph into what you look like, then kill you, drag your body off,
and then take your place.
Yeah, and then they'll go find another party member that's separate from the whole party. They're assassins, pretty much. But they
one of the ecology type articles said they had ESP, so they could read your mind to the point where they could get a pretty good idea of your personality. So that's how they can imitate you so well.
Yeah. Like I said, if a DM plays them right, it's a TPK.
Mage's Musings is quoting Baldur's Gate here.
That's funny.
I think Straw Piglet, they're neutral because they are driven on by instinct. They're not meant to be an organized force. They tend to be sort of very much driven by their instinct and their desire for flesh.
They're chaotic neutral then. Is that
I haven't had any in adventures recently, but the next one that a party of mine comes across, I'm going full out John Carpenter's The Thing. That's going to be my doppelganger.
Yeah. Oh, imagine Michael Myers that can look like you, and that's what a doppelganger is.
Okay. See, my idea of a doppelganger was very similar. It's basically a demon who assumes your shape and uses the exact same weapons that you have.
Oh yeah, they take your shit and then they assimilate themselves into the party.
And because they assimilate you, they also know what attacks you're going to use and stuff.
Yeah, well then they try to separate the party one by one.
Wait, sorry, can you put that back up, John? I wasn't done reading it. My bad.
Oh, sorry.
They don't like to fight a whole group at once. They like one-on-one combat, and
Right, that makes sense.
You know, they're
Thanks, Sean.
stealth.
A lot of this comes down to playing the monsters according to their intelligence. An intelligent monster may, even an evil one, might develop some form of relationship with the party if they feel they can get something out of them.
Yeah, manipulative.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Self-preservation as well. If you take that into account, they can use and abuse relationships with the player characters to further their own cause. It's not something I see done very often in games of D&D. Certainly not. I mean, our weekend ones are very, very relaxed, and it is very much the party go in, mash the monsters, get the treasure type sort of stuff. But if a DM in one of those games wants to develop the monsters a little more, they're free to do so. And as the game goes on and as the characters develop, they probably should.
So how do you like implement a doppelganger without the party knowing, if that makes sense?
They will usually have, when they meet them, they will usually have the form of the last humanoid they saw or consumed.
Correct. Yeah. And then you think
so someone wanders off from the party, gets consumed by the doppelganger. The doppelganger assumes their place, goes back to the party, and the party's none the wiser.
Yeah. There's one adventure where there's a doppelganger in the form of a peasant girl.
Okay.
And of course, the party will likely want to try and rescue the peasant girl, but she's actually a doppelganger. Yeah, my hope was right there. Might act like a random friendly NPC when you first see them. When I played through that one, through that adventure, it was A1, Slave Pit to the Undercity. The party rescued her, and in the next encounter, they were trying to get her to safety. One of their fighters got beaten up, so they left the badly injured fighter in the care of the peasant girl they just rescued, while they continued into the dungeon.
Yep.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah, you see where that one's going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's
very nefarious.
Yeah,
I like it.
Oh,
interesting.
If you play them correctly, they're awesome.
That sounds like one of the more like terrifying things to come up against.
The thing is,
they can be, yeah.
To play a doppelganger properly, you have to get your group. And how we did it, it happened a couple times. You have to have your actual people get into it and get into the session about, oh, this is cool. And the DM will like slide a note or take somebody aside or during a break say, hey, you just got whacked. You're now this.
Well, as Dave says here, he has a split the party voice chat in his Discord situations like that. And if you notice in my Discord, there is a private section.
Yes.
And if I need to speak to a one player character, I'll pull that player character into that private bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you get that person to play the doppelganger. And then
so that person knows that they're supposed to be the doppelganger.
Yeah, and then what happens is they whack.
Okay, so they're playing that role on purpose.
Yeah, and then they whack the next person. You pull that person aside and say, "Okay, you are now the doppelganger. They're no longer with us." So you just go down the line.
Straw Piglet, as you say to an insolent child, I want doesn't get.
Okay.
But no, I think they're going back to the chat are going back to the idea of relationships and half-breed monsters and things like that.
Actually, On the topic, tying back what we were talking about before with relationships, boyfriend and girlfriend and stuff, it'd be really interesting if you had like a couple and one of them ended up turning into a doppelganger and the other one didn't know. That'd be really interesting.
Wouldn't that be delicious? Now, wouldn't that be delicious?
Hey, honey, come over here. There's some loot over here. Oh, cool.
I do. I mean, as a DM, I will admit I do have that streak in me where I would troll people like that. But I get it out of my system on a Tuesday night, running you lot through. Call of Duty, so that's my sort of cleanser for any of those sort of.
You definitely got your fill last time, didn't you?
I think in a couple of weeks my party's going to meet their first mimic, and I'm pretty sure the dwarf is not going to make it through that.
Oh, come on! Really? Okay, you'll have to let. I'm assuming you're talking about Angus.
Well, no. I mean, no.
I think I'll bow out.
If the shoe fits, mate. If the shoe fits.
I mean, if there's any of the others. DMs like Gingerbeard and Gene watching the stream, they could easily throw in a mimic and capture Angus, because of course Angus isn't in my section; he's in one of theirs, isn't he?
Yeah.
So what's a mimic in D&D?
I don't really need to tell you, seeing as you're new to all that.
You can look them up on
YouTube. What I know a mimic is, it's a treasure chest that when you open it, it turns alive and eats you.
But it could.
That's it. Yeah.
It could appear. It depends on how old it is. It could be like just a little jewelry box up to a house. It depends on, and it can look like what it wants to, but it's always kind of like a storage item.
Okay.
Like a little box, a small treasure chest, a seaman's trunk, like a chest.
Yeah.
Up to they have different categories up to like giant or whatever they're called. I can't remember. But yeah, they look like that. I think they've even allowed them to be looking like doors and barrels and crap.
I've played in an adventure where
that's 5th edition where they do that stupid crap.
This one's just a chest. At one point they were in a cave that had an underground lake. It had a river that fed into it, and there's a pedestal in the lake that has a hole in it a couple feet up, so it's just got a little bit of water that flows through this hole and goes down. Basically, it's a water slide. Well, they didn't want to go down the water slide yet. Well, if they do, they come out into another pool several hundred feet farther down, and there's a mimic in that pool, and it just lives off the fish that end up going down that water slide. Well, when they come down, big food, so it's going to be all sorts of happy to see them. And it's pitch dark, unless they've got some kind of light source that doesn't go out spiraling down a couple hundred feet of water slide. So they're going to hit the bottom, take some falling damage, and be wet and confused. And a voice in their head is going to say, "Are you food?" And they're going to have 10 real life seconds to answer no. And if they don't answer, it's going to grab the first one and eat them. And the dwarf has infravision. He's going to see a chest. And he's dumb, so he's going to try to investigate it.
Wait, so the infravision doesn't tell you if it's a mimic or not?
Here's where it's going to see a box that's a different temperature than the cold water coming down this chute.
Right, but surely a warm chest might give the game away if he's clever enough.
Like I said.
He's not, is he? He's dumb.
I've gotten into a lot of trouble over warm chests.
You end up losing your head, did you?
Yeah, you can say that.
But this mimic, if they answer it, it'll say, "Oh, okay, that I won't eat you," and it's fairly old and fairly intelligent, and will be a point of information about what it knows about that part of the area they found, which has an ongoing 3-way conflict between a colony of myconids, a colony of ghouls, and a bunch of piercers. So The ghouls are afraid of the myconids because the king myconid can infect them and turn them into his own zombies. But the myconids are afraid of the piercers because they can kill them. And so it's whichever one they end up with first will try to convince them to kill the other two or the other faction plus the piercers. So they might end up working for the ghouls. They might end up working for the myconids. They might just kill everything. It all depends on how they play it.
The thing is, isn't it a bit of an oxymoron working for myconids, where they just spend the whole time just sat in a circle, inhaling spores?
Well, if they decide they want to work for the myconids, they're going to have to prove they're capable. So they're going to have to volunteer to get put into a hallucinatory training. So they're going to get hit with hallucinator spawns. They're all going to get handed an NPC character, and they're going to run through Tomb of Horrors with that NPC character.
I wonder what's going on in Iman's house at the moment. But no, I've certainly never thought about making. I certainly never thought about making mimics particularly intelligent. Myconids, though, I think myconids are a really good source of player and monster interaction because they're generally peaceful if approached peacefully.
Yeah.
And there can be, you could easily gain alliances with myconids if you are respectful and peaceful and you partake in their spore ceremonies.
And they do all sorts of weird alchemical type things too. So
of course they do, yeah.
So the dwarven fighter thief who just hasn't had any real luck finding any type of magical items, if he doesn't end up being a total fool, they might imbue his boots with something to help him climb because dwarves don't climb real well even if they are a thief or whatever. So they're going to be able to possibly get some beneficial things that aren't on the lists, and they'll have to figure out what it is, but they'll say, let us look at your leather stuff, and they'll get it back a few days later and have to figure out what's going on.
And they might have done something to that leather stuff.
Mm-hmm. What kind of hides are those made out of? We've never seen something like that down here in the dark underneath.
Yeah. They might find it tasty.
They might. This composts quite well, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, IQ.
Yes, sir.
If you have, because we were talking about different monsters and stuff. There's a guy with a really good channel on YouTube, AJ Pickett, with 2 T's at the end. He does a lot of stuff on lore, on all kinds of stuff. You name it, he goes into it. It's really, I watch them just because it's something to do while I'm digging around the house, because I'm caught up on everybody that we hang out with. I'm all caught up on their stuff. But you have questions about different monsters and stuff, he's a really good one to look up. There's another one, and right now I can't remember his name. If I remember before the end of the podcast, or actually I have to leave about 20 minutes because it's air rifle night, but I'll try to find AJ Pickett.
I found his channel.
But yeah, watch his stuff. He does a lot of lore. He doesn't do podcasts or anything. He just does videos about different lore. So yeah, watch.
Straw Piglet.
Excuse me?
Straw Piglet. This would depend on how close the species are. A dog cannot get a cat pregnant. A lion and a tiger, it is possible.
Correct. Yes.
Because they are both felines. So if it's a humanoid, feasibly. But I don't tend to like to go there. I don't tend to like to go there personally. So
For obvious reasons.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's like we actually do have. They're called what are they? Ligers to lion and tiger.
Ligers and there's liger and then there's Tygon, which is the opposite.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, like on Napoleon Dynamite.
So liger is male lion, female tiger, and Tygon is male tiger, female lion. Yeah.
Well, that's why, like in the eastern U.S., mainly east of the Mississippi, our coyotes are bigger than the western coyotes because they bred with wolves. So they're larger, more aggressive.
That makes sense.
A western coyote is the size of, they're like 20 pounds, 30 pounds at most. The eastern coyotes, 60 to 100. So, yeah, it makes a difference.
It's just because they've got the wolf genetics in them.
Correct. Yes.
Something they never mention. They talk about half orcs. They never talk about what the other half is. Is it always?
I assume human. Always assume human.
I think it's implied human, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, because orcs will take anything as a prisoner. Why couldn't you have a half elf, half orc?
I think
I would rule that they are two different. There's humans somewhere in between.
Yeah, no, I think it was addressed in an article in Dragon Magazine which they threw that all out the door with Dark Sun, but in regular D&D, it could only be humans. Elves and dwarves, they couldn't. They could do the nasties, but it wouldn't result in anything.
Okay. I mean, if you want a good individual NPC that's just a psychotic lunatic trying to kill everything it sees because it hates the world and life itself, yeah, half dwarf, half orc.
Yeah.
Or half elf, half orc. I mean, think of the mental conflict that would have.
I wouldn't allow it personally. Elves and orcs and dwarves and orcs personally.
Yeah. Do you guys have like different types of elves in D&D, like wood elf, dark elf, etc., high elf?
Yes.
Okay. What are they?
Human teenager.
Okay, now the problem is, the thing is, you need to know how to play, because there is a difference on their sociological views. Like the wild owls, the wood elves, the high elves.
The high elves are the poncy ones. They always are.
Yeah.
Yes, the high elves are the Noldor elves. Yes, they are.
And then the wild elves are pretty much freaking, except for being cannibals, they're just insane rednecks that kill everything that comes into their forest. The wood elves are a little better. They're not as bad, but yeah.
Do you have dark elves?
Yes.
They're the Drow.
Orcs would eat elven prisoners, I would say, Duralumin. That's yeah.
And then there's the Valley Elves and the Vale of the Mage.
I forgot about the Valley Elves, yeah. And they'll kill you as soon as look at you also.
Yeah, they're basically the cult elves.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
You've got in D&D initially, in AD&D initially, you had high elves, grey elves, and wood elves, which loosely translated to being Tolkien's Sylvan, Sindar, and Noldor elves.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Though they were different size in D&D. Elves in D&D are much smaller, whereas in Tolkien they're tall and slender. So.
Yeah, D&D elves are what, like bigger 5'3", 100 pounds, somewhere around there. Yeah.
They're more fairy-like than.
Even though there's obvious Tolkien influences in having the three types of elves initially and all that sort of thing, and they are based physically on elves from folklore more than anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Half orcs got huge as the editions got bigger too. They used to be smaller than humans, and now they're big old things.
Yeah.
Third edition and fifth edition and all those.
My OC character's a half orc.
He is, yes, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But no, I don't like what they've made half orcs into being this sort of overly muscular green skin, 6 foot, however many, 300-pound behemoths.
It's basically just a human bodybuilder with green scaly skin.
Yeah, that's what they've made them. But in AD&D, half orcs were smaller and could generally pass as humans.
Really?
Yep.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because they were not accepted by human society. So the ones that became player characters had to be those that were a little more accepted.
Okay, right.
Yeah, usually the ones you would run into that were part of an orc tribe looked more orcish. And it would say that
So
right
they were
in
accepted by the
adventures
orcs, right?
were in there.
Jeb, that was
makes sense.
funny. Redneck elves. That's funny.
Yes. Okay. One final topic I wanted to come to before we go into general wobbling on, which we've already started a bit, is the whole concept of how the bard has changed over the years. Because you can't mention relationships in D&D without the way that the reputation of the bard has been soiled by later editions.
Where did that even come from?
I would like to know when that started, because now all they are is like, it's like they run around with hard-ons and screw everything.
Yeah, that's the way
they went from being the ultimate badass to being Hugh Hefner of the teenage years, and I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I know exactly.
This does sound interesting. Please go on.
Okay, IQ. While I'm thinking about it, another one to look up is Esper the Bard.
How do you spell that?
ESPER.
ESPER.
I'm sorry. ESPARE.
Oh, I found it.
You'll find. Yeah, he has a lot of good.
Yeah, I found it.
Too. But like John was saying, the Bard, when we first started playing, he was a badass. He was a magic user, a thief, and a fighter.
Druid.
Druid.
Was it Druid? Okay, Druid. Yeah.
Thief, Druid,
and now they're just, I don't know. Yeah.
Horny bastards.
Halakar described it perfectly. Hugh Hefner was a teenager. You know.
Yeah, something's happened where the whole idea that a bard could just use his charisma to... They turned him into sort of like a fantasy David Bowie type character. Almost.
And if
now they're that asshole in Animal House that Lucy takes his guitar and smashes apart on the wall.
And the thing is, they're a really cool class if you play them right. I mean, you can, if you think about it, you could be the David Lee Roth and the rock star and the guy going around telling tales and playing in club bars and hotels and hostels, whatever you want to call them. Or he has the skills to be a really good spy, second tier.
They were meant to be your storytellers, your lore collectors.
Yeah.
It's like a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Capable of a combination of
James
combat,
Bond.
Capable of a combination of subterfuge, combat with some magical skills to back them up.
Yeah.
That's how they were meant to be originally.
Correct.
And then they have turned into something.
A joke.
A joke, yes. Yeah.
The first bard in stories that I remember reading about was Fluter Flam. I think that's how you'd pronounce it, in the Lloyd Alexander Prydain Chronicles. And I thought that's how I based any time I would ever come across one. Not that I ever played any, but every now and then you'd see one in an adventure or something like that, and that was it. He was a fighter that happened to carry a lute, and he would. He would, when the party was in low spirits, he would sing a song to try to raise their spirits. And
You fly by the
That's
seat
what
of
I
your-
imagine a bard to be as well. What you just said.
You
He
fly by the
kept
seat of your
records of
pants.
what they did.
Yeah.
And
Someone
turns
who's a
out,
tough-ass fighter, but they also know how to keep the party spirits up.
and it turns
with,
out he was
musical
king.
numbers.
He was just tired of kinging, so he went out and was adventuring.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, the archetypal bard was Alan Adale in the Robin Hood mythology. But Duralumin's playing. Yeah, he's playing a bard in Merp, but he's gathering lore. That's what he's doing. He's most certainly not a fighter. Though going on to relationships, there's a thought that there is a Dunedain princess who is very much of marriageable quality, and that came up at the end of the last session. And with Duralumin's character being Dunedain, with some, as has come up, some royal blood in the past, because Athalas worked for him. There could be a budding relationship there, but it's up to the player. So, but he's most certainly not playing him as the horny bard. He's playing him as a lore collector, intelligent and methodical. So, yeah. Where was I going? Alan Adale was my original thought for a bard. Then, of course, there was the comical bard, the Brave Sir Robin's bard from Quest for the Holy Grail.
When danger reared its ugly head, he bravely turned his tail and fled.
Absolutely.
Brave Sir Robin.
Yeah. I mean, I once created an NPC bard called Federico, who was blatantly based on Freddie Mercury. But darling, darling, he was very, very camp. Most definitely was not one to woo the ladies. But I mean, yeah, I suppose in doing that, I was probably guilty of leaning into the stereotype. But no, he wasn't a horny bard either. He was just very quite flamboyant and quite showy, but he was a storyteller. He was a performer. And I think that's what bards ideally should be: performers and storytellers and collectors of lore. And that makes them a worthwhile member of a party rather than a liability because of the relationships.
Spiffing musical numbers.
Yeah. Because what you get nowadays is you get them trying to seduce monsters and things like that, thinking they can
What
do that.
the fuck, man? Come on.
Yeah, that's all that's talked about on various 5e forums. Rolling to seduce dragons and things like that.
I feel like a lot of this is just like you described earlier, those nerdy basement dwellers. Like
Yeah.
only doing it for the dragon move.
Donkey on Shrek doesn't mean it's going to work for you in my game.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because I understand this is seen as a quote unquote nerdy hobby, but come on, these guys are not helping the stereotype here.
No. Whatever we try to do,
Most of us have actually been with a woman at some point.
No, I think most is an overstatement there.
Well, okay. More than what people think, then.
Probably.
I mean, Daniel's got unlucky enough to have it 3 times.
I don't know. To me over here with everything leading up to the Super Bowl, it seems like there's an awful lot of men that are absolutely terrified of Taylor Swift. So we may be overstating the position here.
Yeah. So I think we've probably come to the end of the topic, really. The general conclusion is relationships should be fostered at the table in terms of friendships and camaraderie. There's a lot of scope there for DMs to generate relationships with NPCs, and it really adds to the game if you can give an NPC character and motive, which will help with the relationship. And the stuff beyond, it depends on the table. It depends on the genre you're playing. I would use the stuff beyond to make a horrific villain more horrific, but only imply. Everything else fades to black, which is the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if one of my players wanted to get married in the game to an NPC, first thing, I wouldn't make it a liability.
No.
You know? And if they wanted to somehow involve it in there, I would not be opposed to putting some kind of little arc in here and there. But it wouldn't be.
See it as an opportunity if the player is the sort who would approach it in a mature way. You have to read your players there. And certainly if you're mature gamers, then you should be able to deal with this sort of thing at the table.
Only a bit. That's it.
See it as an opportunity and embrace it, quite literally.
Piglet, are you sure that doesn't happen in real life too?
On the island.
And right, so
my niece.
any questions from chat you want to throw at us? You're more than welcome. With my esteemed,
I've got one.
Go on then.
On the topic of relationships, I know you guys talked about people who are already existing couples playing D&D, but has there been any people that weren't couples and then through D&D they became couples? Do you guys have any examples of that?
Yeah, that girl I dated. The story I told earlier.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, didn't you?
Yeah. And like I said, we weren't angry with each other. It just didn't work out. And we still played together for another 8 years, at least. So, yeah. Heck, I was at her wedding. So, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
In my games, no. But on one occasion, one person wanted to. And when the other person didn't, it did cause a little bit of only temporarily.
Awkward, yeah.
Only temporarily.
Yeah.
Nothing long term.
No.
Yeah, it can cause that sort of temporary awkwardness, can't it? Like.
Well, it depends on the maturity of the people. Like I said, me killing her character wasn't out of us splitting up because we split up amicably. It was just the way that episode or that session happened. And unfortunately, it was like a week or two after we split up. We didn't. I mean, there was no animosity or anything. And, you know, like I said, we still saw each other every week for years. So it depends on the temperament of the people.
If the player named his PC Shagnum Rotten, then as a DM, I am damning him to a solitary existence. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yes, that character is going to fail with every attempt.
Negative 20 charisma.
Yes, any NPC finding out what that character's name was would immediately laugh at them and glance down and say, "Not with that, you won't."
Yeah, come on. Everybody had some kind of stupid name like that at some point when they were young, though.
When we were 12.
We ran a Greek, Roman, something like that themed game one time, and my character's name was Testicles.
Well, who hasn't made a joke like that at some point?
Yeah. I mean, we've got the DM had an NPC on a Monday who he made the stupid mistake of calling Bullbug. So he's now known as Ballbag in our group. Because he has to.
Oh, that's just saying ball bag, but in a northern accent.
Yeah, he has to. He's Ballbag, and there's been lots of
Ball
bag
bug.
jokes as a result. Lots of Ballbag jokes as a result of that. So, that's just what happens. But yeah, yeah, Sir Shags a lot and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
That's like who is it that runs all the Cuxons?
Yes, that's Gingerbeard.
Yeah.
All of his characters are members of the Cuxon family.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Do they have special chairs made for them?
Yeah. It's Cuxon this, Cuxon that, Cuxon whatever. Yeah.
Well, you had Cuck Hooligan.
His first character was Cuck Holligan. Cuck Holligan's dead. Didn't Jeremy Cookson die as well?
Well, I don't know. The one episode he lost two guys in like 5 minutes.
What happened? What the hell?
I can't remember what we were fighting, but
Go on.
He went.
What is it, John?
He went through. He was on his third character by the end of the game. He lost one, lost another within 5 minutes, and then he got his third one in. But yeah, he had a bad day.
Two Coxons in one day, but he's been trying to kill off his most recent Coxon, and we're not letting him.
What actually happened to his characters?
The high-level modules. I've got some glorious character deaths from D1 and D2 to share.
Yeah. What was that? Hold on. What was it? IQ? I mean, I didn't play in that session when Gingerbeard lost those.
Oh, right. Okay.
I believe it was goblins.
Right.
So yes, share those character deaths then, Halakar.
Well, actually, you have them listed in OSC regular chat, I think.
Yeah, I wasn't playing in the game. I just heard about them.
Yeah.
So what are these D1 and D2 character deaths? Are these particularly delicious?
Oh, well, okay, so I was one of the few times I played an elf, and he was basically an Elric knockoff. Well, we wanted to try to sneak in as best we could, so I used I don't remember if I used a change self or a color cantrip or something to make myself look like a drow. And we had one of the guy's girlfriends was playing, and she was an elf too. So we made her look like one as well. Well, since she was a female, she had to, of course, be the leader because, the female drow were more prestigious. But she was just there because her boyfriend knew nothing about the game or how to play it or anything. So she was a liability. Well, anyways, the boyfriend of that group was playing a lizard man because it was 2nd edition and they had the book of humanoids or whatever it was, and he decided he was going to play a lizard man. We had a ranger in the party that my magic user had polymorphed into a bugbear, so we were basically a caravan with some slaves, and the lizard man was one of the party members that was a slave, or supposed to be looking like a slave, and the bugbear was the slave driver. Well, the lizard man would come up with all sorts of harebrained ideas because he was just a young kid at the time. So every time he would, my drow would tell the bugbear to whip the lizard man. So that was kind of fun. Well, we got into a big fight, and the guy, Paul, the guy playing the lizard man, had invited one of his friends along, and his friend had a dwarf named Cinderella because he loved the band Cinderella. And he had been bragging about how his dwarf had been through this and been through that and never so much as taken a scratch, blah, blah, blah. He was invincible. Nothing was going to happen to him. First combat, I don't remember what happened, but his dwarf just took a shellacking. I mean, got hit hard. And the lizard man, part of their thing is when they see blood, they had to make some kind of wisdom save or go into a frenzy and start eating whatever was bleeding, friend, enemy, whatever. He missed his wisdom save, so his buddy Cinderella takes this massive hit, is laying there bleeding. His buddy, the lizard man, goes over and starts eating him and basically kills him by munching on his body as he's laying there. We had another guy in the party that had polymorphed. I don't remember what he started as, but he polymorphed into a quickling for some reason. I don't know what the heck the reason was, and he got hit by a fear spell. The effect of it was he fled at maximum speed for however long it was. Well, maximum speed was 5 times his standard movement rate, and his standard movement rate was 24 at that point. We never saw him again. He went at like Mach 3.5 for a couple of miles in the Underdark. And yeah, that was just a catastrophe.
Quickly, I think that's something like a -3 armor class naturally due to their speed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
that and when they move, they're invisible, basically.
But because they're so fast.
Yeah. Because their movement is, I think, 960. But they only live for like 2 years because their metabolism is so high. So I'm wondering, how did the DM age this guy?
we never found him again. Like I said, he got lost because every time he came to an intersection, the DM would just roll a die. It's random which one he went down, because he was the influence of fear. He didn't get to make a rational choice.
All I can think of when I think of quicklings is me on a Saturday night at like 2:30 in the morning with hookers and coke. That's what a quickling is.
So yeah, we eventually, the only out of the original group, the only original characters that made it to the Vault of the Drow were my fighter magic user and the ranger, and that was all the farther we got. We didn't make it to the spider ship, and we didn't go to the Queen of the Demon Web Pits. The group just kind of disbanded after a while. A bunch of people moved away and stuff like that. But
I would say the DM was rescued there.
Yeah, correct.
But yeah, we had, oh geez, yeah, getting eaten by your own party member. That was a good one.
Yeah. This stream was never monetized in the first place, Nutty. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
But yeah, Cinderella, we laughed about that. You survived everything except Dennis the Killer DM.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the most horrible death any of my characters have had.
I had one.
We fought we killed the vampire and his succubus concubine, and I ended up vandalizing their corpse and making a life-stealing sword out of them, because hey, if you're gonna pretend you're Elric, go all the way.
My best one was, I had a dwarven fighter, took full damage from an adult red dragon. He had 1 hit point left. He picked up his battle axe, turned around and said, "You burnt my beard." Guess what happened next? Another immolation.
Yeah. Yes.
My DM loved it. He's like, he actually gave me XP towards my next character just because I played it so well.
Nice.
I mean, the most memorable death in any of our games I remember was Gingerbeard's character committing suicide because we persuaded him he was dead. So he said that his character just climbed into a grave that was being dug and asked the gravedigger to bury him, because of course he's dead.
Wow. I did have one. It was pretty. I don't think he ended up dying, but we were all like 10th, 12th level characters, and I had a pretty much a ranger. He was named after one of the people in the Shannara series. I can't remember which one, but that's who I modeled him after. And he had a ring of regeneration, and we're getting beat up. I can't remember what we were fighting, but it was a horde. And he goes down, but during regeneration brings him back, and he has 1 hit point. And then he has to face the boss monster with 1 hit point. Somehow he won that fight. And he thing is, when he woke up, he said, "Oh no, not again," because he knew he figured he was going to die again.
Yeah, that particular death. We're back on Saxius' game that myself, Gingerbeard, and General Nut tormented poor Saxius. And yes, definitely more chaotic than evil. We were very, very chaotic. We played hugely into the chaotic nature.
Oh, was that the?
Is this the one where you put the chickens on your heads?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
guys, I gotta bounce. I'll see you some of you on Friday.
Yeah.
Air rifle.
No worries, Dan.
Cheers, Dan.
Air rifle league tonight for my son, so
Enjoy.
gotta go do the proper parenting thing.
Now,
Yes,
No worries.
that same campaign earlier on, we were between the frost giants and the fire giants, but we did something wrong with the chain. We put it in the wrong shape, and it teleported us to the wrong place. Because whatever the movie with all the dinosaurs had just come out, so we wanted to play with dinosaurs. So we went to the jungles of Chult because I had that expansion. So I DM'd that part. Well, we had a couple, a boyfriend, girlfriend that were playing. One was the girlfriend was a cleric, the boyfriend was a magic user. Well, the guy who was the normal DM was flirting with the girlfriend big time. I mean, he was just all over her, even though he worked with the boyfriend. That's how he was part of that group. Well, they'd be passing notes back and forth and all that. Jay, the boyfriend, just finally got fed up with it. So we had run into a blue dragon. The blue dragon just torched the girlfriend. I mean, lightning bolted her hard. And it got to the magic user's turn in the initiative, and he lightning bolted her again from behind. He says, maybe your next character won't be flirting with the ranger. Well, okay then.
Oh.
How did she react to that?
Stunned silence at first.
Yes.
Yeah, they had a tumultuous relationship. I'm sure they fought for a while, and then let nature take its course later on. We're back together again next week.
Yeah, but we're back on relationships again. We come back to the topic.
They didn't last. She finally got smart and dumped him. And
oh, right, okay.
Yeah. But again, that was what?
I don't know. That's some pretty shady dealing, to be honest.
She would have been like 18 or 19, and he was probably 21. So, brain's not fully developed, still a little bit smooth.
Yeah. Yes. So, something I didn't get onto is party relationships in evil games. We sort of touched on it a little bit. I ran a game recently of Call of Cthulhu where it was a one shot, so we didn't really get much chance to develop characters and motives and whatever. It was presented pretty much by the scenario. But I would like to maybe drag that out a little bit more to see how the players would have reacted, because all of them were unsavory gangsters or low-level gangsters forced to work together by a crime boss who they had failed. And I think that would have been quite interesting if that game had been allowed. But I very much said it was a one-shot. We played it in a 3-hour session, so they worked together. There wasn't really much shenanigans. But I'm actually tempted at some point to run a game where the players, they are the bad guys. I'd like to see how the party develops with adult players. so they
I'd be
know
down for that.
they know how to
would
play.
be polarizing. I mean, because they would either set up their own little cliques amongst each other, or they develop a hardcore us against the world.
Yeah, but I think it could be interesting. It could be interesting to see how the dynamics play out. But I think you've got to have mature players for that sort of game.
There was a game I
Well,
was
it kind of.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, it kind of goes back to the alignments thing. Like, you might be evil, but some people might be lawful, some people might be chaotic, some might be neutral. Like, just because you're evil doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a dick.
Yeah.
There was a game I was in where early on our magic user died, and my fighter was the only one that had enough money to pay to get him raised. So I did. And every encounter we had, every adventure after that, that magic user lived. I didn't care about the rest of the party, but my fighter made sure that magic user lived because he owed me money. It didn't matter what. I didn't care what everybody else could stand. It could their corpse could stay there, get reanimated, whatever. I drug that magic user out to make sure that he lived until that debt got paid.
Yeah. But that's how
You're not allowed to die yet. You owe me money, bitch.
Well, I was true neutral. I decided where my allegiances were and where they weren't, and they were to the coin of the realm.
Yeah.
I could see
allegiance to money.
I could see a lawful evil and a neutral evil type doing the same sort of thing as well. Chaotic evil might not be quite as patient.
And
I think of chaotic evil as being basically embodied by the Joker.
Yeah, he is the meme of chaotic evil. Yes.
That same fighter we had later on, we had a druid in the party that liked to summon squirrels and have them pull pranks on people, sometimes party members, whatever. Well, he decided to have his squirrel. We were just traveling, wherever it was in the wilderness. So I had shield strapped on the back. One of his squirrels ran out my back and chewed through a strap on my shield. So my shield fell off. So I took my bow and I shot all three of his squirrels. You motherfucker, I got to replace the strap on my shield. What's up with that? And I can't believe you did that. I said, you're next. Keep it up. But I'm part of your party. I don't care. There's a lot of druids out there. I got to spend money out of my, we can hire one of them for nothing. I got to pay to fix this. You care more about that than yes, I do.
But was the player annoyed, or was he just role playing his characters being annoyed?
I think he was annoyed.
But I suppose it puts pay to his shenanigans, doesn't it?
Yeah, he was from Quebec.
I don't know enough about the Quebecois to.
They're French.
Okay. Yeah, I know that.
Whenever you get all hoity-toity, it's like, you're not noble. You were a war prize. They gave you away so that they would quit getting beat on. No, he was good. He was just a young kid, though. They were, God. I think he was probably about 12 years younger than the rest of the group, but he was a coworker with one of the other players. But yeah, it's like, I told you guys right up from the front, this fighter, he's a grizzled war veteran. He doesn't play. He's just out here because he didn't make any money when he was in the service, and he wants to get enough that he can retire. That's the only thing he wants.
That's fair enough.
That's respectable.
Reason to adventure. That is the traditional reason to adventure as a AD&D type fighter type.
Mm-hmm.
You go in there, you raid a few tombs, you make some coin, and you build your keep, and you settle down to a life of luxury.
He collected a trophy off each thing that he killed. Had a horse with a cart, and he had little boxes for each one of his trophies.
Is Slan here, Nutty? I don't think he is. I don't think Slan is here. He's getting in his little apology to Slan early on. Because Slan, of course, is from Quebec. But Slan is very much not grumpy individual.
Yeah.
His latest story that he read in was almost a half hour long. I didn't have time to listen to that one today. I've got to get it in tomorrow.
I've been busy.
I suggested to him, as a joke, that he should change his name to Cheerful Old Slan, and all he has to do is to get rid of that horizontal line from his logo.
No, I tend to catch up on people's videos when I'm at work, and Wednesday's not my day for doing that because stock has to be done. But tomorrow, hopefully we'll be quiet enough to catch up on a few people's videos.
I've had Descend into the Depths on in the background while I've been working the last couple of days. So I read that one a long time ago, but.
What about Descent into the Depths? A live play of it, or a?
They actually made them into novels probably 20 years ago or so, and this is the audiobook of it, I guess. The YouTube channel is like the Black Rat Tavern or Black Rat Inn or something like that, and he's got to be 100 D&D novels that I don't know if he's read them or if he's collected the audiobooks or what, but I've been listening to the classic Greyhawk ones. So I did listen to White Plume Mountain, Descend into the Depths, and
from your description, it sounds like his own personal readings.
I don't know. I'm not sure, because he was saying something about book number 1, Against the Giants. He said they didn't make that into an audio book, so I might have to read it myself. So it almost sounds like they're audio books, but I don't know if you can legally upload those. So I can't say for certain.
I don't think you can. That's why they must be. I think they must be self-read. There's definitely some sort of copyright issue.
But like I said, he's got hundreds and hundreds of them, because he's got the Dragonlance ones, Dark Sun ones, just every genre of them that are D&D related.
Good to put on at work.
Just have those playing in the background. I can't work in dead silence.
Oh, I do. Why? I whenever the boss is not there, the radio goes off. I end up putting YouTube on actually. I sit there for a while and just go.
I have to have a little bit of background noise, otherwise the sounds will distract me. Like, since they've got us working from home now, our neighbors have a rooster that his internal clock is broken because he starts at about 4 in the morning and stops at 9 at night, and it is continuous.
Oh.
Across, from his yard, across the creek, through the walls of my house, this rooster, I'm gonna have to get an emotional support weasel and let him loose.
The way you describe where you are, though, is so alien to us in Britain.
Yeah, right. I'm just trying to picture it like, what?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, we've got, so west of the house, I've got a creek, and then there's the neighbor's property, and they've got chickens and this annoying rooster, and then there's a road, and across the road, there's a little farm with 6 horses. And the next one after that has a couple of goats and some geese and a Shetland pony. If you go east of the house, we've got the next place over has about 40 cattle. And that's where I'm at.
It sounds like you're in quite like a wide open space.
A lot of trees. I mean, it's a lot of it's forested, which is nice. But yeah, a lot of wild creatures.
You're from quite close to the location where my favorite Call of Cthulhu adventure is set, aren't you?
I'm close to Saginaw. I'm not that close to Clio.
Right.
Clio's closer to the Detroit area than I am.
Right.
What adventure is that, John?
Forget Me Not.
Oh, okay, that one.
I've not run you through that yet. Probably need to run that again on the channel, because there are lots of new people who would certainly enjoy it.
Yes. Oh yeah, I'm down.
I just found out last week that about just a little bit north of Saginaw was a German POW camp during World War II. And I don't know if it was on the map in there, but in the town of Freeland where the airport is now, was a POW camp for German prisoners during World War II. And the prisoners would go out and work on the farms. They got paid the same wage as the regular workers. So they weren't in, they actually had more freedom than people that were in criminal prisons. They got to go to town on the weekends and spend the money that they earned, because where are they going to go?
It doesn't really sound like they're being prisoners, does it?
They're 1,000 miles from the coast. Where are they going to go?
Michigan's quite a big place as well. It's quite large, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know landmass, but it's pretty big.
Yeah. I know it's quite a big block in the middle. So
it's surrounded by a lot of water.
Yeah. Right, we are coming towards the end of the stream. This is just chilling time. There was something I was going to say, and I can't remember what it was. Not for the life of me. Brain is beginning to go into mush mode. But anyone? Oh, yeah. I was going to say, because you're saying about your neighbours.
Rooster stew.
I've got next door neighbours' kids sleeping about 6 feet away from me through the wall that I'm pointing to over there. That's how close we live here.
I decided that neighbors started getting too close when I can't stand out the back porch and take a leak into the lawn, because I have to worry that someone might see.
About 50 people would see if I did that.
Yeah, that's when I knew the neighbors were getting too close.
I'm thinking there's like a good maybe 20 people that would see if I did that. Yeah. It's a very, very different. I mean, certainly, our street here, these are mid-town houses, so it's blocks of 4 houses in a row, terraced. The ones on the end might have garages or side alleyways. We've got a little alleyway running, a very small alleyway running between our house and next door on one side, and nothing running between our house and the other side. And it is very hemmed in. But that's the joy of home ownership, as James says. Can't afford to move, General. No, can't afford to move. House prices have shot up way beyond ever considering moving.
Yeah, right before COVID hit, I was actually trying to buy the property next door where the rooster is now, because that house is on 5 acres. But with everything going on, I couldn't actually get to my credit union. I had to do everything through email, and it was a big hassle. So it ended up getting bought out from underneath me for less than what I was going to offer, actually. So,
I mean, in American, our back garden is probably 5 yards wide, 15, 20 yards long, maybe 15 yards long. That's how much space we've got. And at the front, we've just got enough space for 2 cars.
Let's see. My garage is 42 feet by 73 feet. It'll hold 9 cars.
What?
Because that's where tools and tractor and.
That's twice the size of the ground floor of my house, probably.
Well, the house will fit inside the garage if we could move it, but it was a Selfridge Air Force Base. When it closed down, they sold a bunch of their buildings. So we bought a Quonset hut that was still in boxes. It was just in pieces. So we put it all together. It was like 15,000 bolts to put this thing together. It's actually was kind of a cool project.
The square
15,000.
Yeah, that's massive. I mean, the floor plan of our house, we could probably fit 4 cars in total if we hollowed out the entire ground floor. And they wouldn't be big cars; they'd be small.
Well, we can fit 3 wide, but you could, if you took out the workbenches and some of the storage racks and stuff, we could easily fit 3 rows deep of 3 across.
Wow.
But I showed you my house once when I was on video call, right, John?
Yeah. It's a lot bigger than mine.
Yeah, it's a detached, isn't it?
Yeah.
But my brother's a mechanic, so he has a lot of tools and stuff out there because he's always, bringing cars over for friends and things that he works on. He's got an old Cadillac out there that he's rebuilding that's taking up a lot of space because it's all parted out and in pieces. Just the stove to heat the thing is pretty good. And then we've got all the big air compressor. We've got 2 freezers and a refrigerator out there. There's a lot of storage, all the holiday decorations and things. We used to do a haunted trail through the woods, so we'd have decorations set up so we could take the kids back on like a hayride through the woods, and we had all the big full-sized props and stuff set up.
When myself and my brother were competing in motorsport, we had to keep our rally car at our parents' house because there was no room at either of our houses for an extra car. So we had a trailer and a rally car parked on the corner of their drive. Because they've got quite a wide driveway.
Yeah.
But only left them with room for one more car. It took up a lot of their space. But we had to keep them there, and all our tools were kept in there. They had a garage. We didn't. So all the tools were kept in their garage. It was a bit of a palaver when we were fixing it and building it, because it always had to be on their drive. We didn't have enough garage space to work in.
Yeah.
It had to be on the driveway.
Well, and that's the way, a lot of houses that have a garage attached to them, there's enough room for the car, but you can't open the door all the way up to get in or out. So that's why when my dad wanted a pole barn, well, this was cheaper and technically bigger, has a bigger footprint. So that's what he got.
Well, fair play. Anyway, I've got work tomorrow, and we are at the pumpkin hour. We've managed to drag the stream out to midnight. I didn't know whether we'd manage it because we killed the topic in the first 2 hours, didn't we? Really. So we've had just a gentle chat since then. So I am going to have to depart. So first things first, Iman, you have a channel. You may share it if you wish.
Yes, hi everybody. My channel is underneath my little sexy display picture there. I'm hoping to have a video up tomorrow, so hopefully you'll have something to catch up on while you're at work, John.
Okay.
I do video gaming mostly. Yeah.
That's it. I tend to check out other people's channels on Thursday, Friday at work, doing quiet moments. But Halakar, you don't have a channel.
I do not.
But this is the second week in a row you've joined us, haven't you? You flirted with joining us a few times in the past, but now you've got.
Well, now that I'm working from home, except for on Fridays. Well, actually, this Friday's a holiday for me, so I'll be home then too. But yeah, I should be here Wednesdays if it's something that I have something to contribute to. Otherwise, I'll just be in chat. But this Saturday's my game night, and I haven't seen him in chat, but the players will hopefully have a chance to run into the little village boy named Manfred, who's going to tell them about all the wonderful aardvarks in the Temple of Marika.
Yeah, Manfred said last night that he wouldn't be available for tonight's stream, so that's fair. Let us know how Manfred gets on in that game, and whether your party develop a relationship with him of some sort. Thank you everybody who has been in chat tonight. We had Saxius on with us earlier. We've had Daniel on with us tonight as well. Always good to see them. And everybody in chat tonight. Those who have stayed with us, Straw Piglet, James, Jeb, General Nut, Peter, scrolling up. Anybody else I can see? Dave. I've gone much further up. No, I'm not going any further up. But thank you, everybody who's been chatting away tonight. I will be streaming on Friday. We're going to be playing Trial of Champions. And Andy, you're still here. Yeah. You're afraid you're all going to get stuffed next Tuesday? I don't know. We shall see. That's a joke at the fact that the NPC they've just encountered is a taxidermist. But yeah, I'll be seeing you on Tuesday. But cheers everybody who was hung on in chat. I'll be streaming again on Friday night. We'll be reading Trial of Champions, the follow-up to Death Trap Dungeon, which of course we failed on last Friday. I was actually playing through a bit of Trial of Champions earlier, just to remind myself of what the book's like. And let's just say if we don't roll a character with a skill of 11 or 12, we've got no chance.
Oh,
We've got no chance. None whatsoever. It's so tough. You're still here with us as well, Dualumin. Thank you for stopping around.
Sorry, everyone. My internet connection's really bad.
Yeah, we expect it. You're up in Burnley, where internet is the new thing. It's that newfangled internet. Isn't that right?
Sorry, I missed that. My internet connection really got messed up then.
I was going on about Burnley with newfangled internet up there. They don't quite know how it all works, and it's all a bit daft, you know.
Yeah, it's just newfangled technology to us. We're a bit like behind the times and that.
Right, that you are. And
a bit more
on that
primitive
note,
than you lot.
Oh, very much. But you love your whippets. Right. On that note, I'll see you all again next week. So cheers, fellas.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.